All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Bautista versus Oliveira, taking a look at some of the other combat sports that we watched over the past week. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend. To know him is to love him, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
Dude, I'm good. Obviously, Saturday came. We had fights that I'm excited to talk about. It is Monday now, and it is a great day. I'll tell you that. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, there was a bunch of combat sports of various types going on Saturday. It seems we're back in the full swing of things at this point, man. We are really revving the engines up as far as all of the combat sports go. So a couple of different things, and of course, just to not to bury the lead here, we do not have UFC this coming weekend, so we will be doing a next or this week's fights on our next episode. So we're not going to be going over too much of the upcoming card because we're going to give you our predictions on the next episode. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that we consumed as far as combat sports content go. And Chase, you are Mr. One Championship. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened over there?
I think there's just two specific things that I want to talk about that happened on one. If you want to go ahead
I
and switch
certainly do.
over.
Yes, indeed.
Now, this one, again, just another early morning of one. And I want to specifically point out that this card, it said it started at 6:30. I remember seeing it at 6:30, and then somewhere halfway through the week, I saw a thumbnail or something that said 7:30. And I thought that was weird because they normally don't switch the times. They're normally not, mysterious about when these things starts. And I always get to clown Thinker, like, dude, how are you fucking up getting to these things on time? Like, what is the deal? You're always having power outages. The satellites are going out. They're not even showing the events live anymore. Things like these are a common occurrence on Thinker Stream. But for me,
This is not hyperbolic. Some of this stuff actually happened.
yes, yeah, it's crazy, So when I think of like how could I fuck up one, I think it's impossible because one is always on the dot. But anyway, I woke up at 6:30 in the morning, which if anybody knows is crazy. Like why would anybody wake up at 6:30 in the morning unless they don't, unless they have to. And I got up at 6:30, turned on YouTube, and then the timer said I had an hour left. So I was very upset with that. I was able to go back to sleep easily, don't get me wrong. I was able to go back to sleep and wake up an hour later. But the fact that it was not starting at 6:30 was alarming. And then when it finally turns on, I find out I missed 3 bouts. So
Oof.
that was very, very unfortunate. I don't know what they were hiding from me on these 3 bouts because I'm telling you guys, I watch all of these early morning bouts, but the first three on here, they just did not fucking exist for me. And I don't
Yeah.
know if it was actually these ones or if they are just three different, completely random ones, but the first three I missed. And now I
Well,
don't know.
and I was going to say, one of the crazy things about the one Friday fight specifically is that it does seem to have a little bit of a make 'em up element to it. Like fights get switched around. This guy's over here. The main event gets changed to the co-main and vice versa. Like they really have a kind of a loosey goosey attitude when it comes to like the fight bout order. And then now what you're saying with the time getting switched up a little bit too kind of falls in line with that. Unfortunately, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this was the first time this had happened to me. In 2026, I started watching one in about, late 2025, and it's now beginning of 2026, and I do not want to see them start this. I would love for you guys to start it at the times that you tell me about. But either way, there's two other stories that we want to talk about specifically. And yes, Mr. Johan Ghazali, right? Is that how we say this?
Yes.
Ghazali,
Solid.
Jojo is his name to me. Our Malaysian king. I got my Malaysian flag on the way. I don't even know. It might even be here somewhere in the mailbox. But either way, JoJo is a star. And obviously I'm late to the game. Everybody knows JoJo's a star, apparently. I say, hey, did you guys know this JoJo guy from Malaysia? And they're like, dude, yeah, I've known about him for 3 years now. And it's like, what the he's like 19 years old or something. Like, what's even going on? Like, he's very, very talented. I mean, obviously, unanimous decision on paper doesn't look that crazy, but guys, star power he does, and he gets on the mic and he's got a good English and he can call out whoever he wants. And I thought it was very, very fun. He's apparently got a sister who's also competing. He's got a younger brother who's also going to be competing very, very soon. this family right here. I mean, I think we are starting to see a lot of what am I thinking? But either way, there's a lot of siblings in one. You know, this is a
Right,
lot
like
of
combat sports families, and
yes,
yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
very
it's
common.
definitely very common in one. It seems. I mean, obviously the Lee family is a big one there. Of course, the Rotolo brothers, the Stupinan brothers as well. I mean, like they're popping up more and more. And I think that I had heard about Ghazali and his siblings, but I didn't realize that his brother has not debuted yet. So that's cool to know.
I don't know if he has. I think he has amateur bouts. I could be wrong if he has pro, but I don't know if he's made a debut in one yet. I'm
Right, right,
going based off of what the comments has led me to believe on Mr.
sure.
JoJo here, and he's definitely somebody to keep an eye out for. But I'll keep that one as it is because again, I don't know too much about him yet. You guys probably know more about me. I'm not going to run you down a rabbit hole that you already know about. The next one I want to talk about, if you scroll up, 3 fights. This Mike Ohura guy from Japan, right? He goes up against our Filipino friend Hero. Now, I have been talking about Japanese grappling and how they are on the come up. You know, these are people to look out for. Even if you guys are out there and you're in the meme world, you know, you've seen that more recent clip of Habib there where he says Japan like an old samurai guy, where he's like, there's 3 regions of wrestling, guys. There's Iran, Russia, and United States, or something. I don't know what the fuck he says, but then he's like, but there's one other country. You know, and it's really stupid. But either way, Japanese wrestling, very, very good. Or Japanese grappling, that is, excuse me. Mike Ohura, this guy had a fully locked in triangle choke, did not get it, and then immediately got finished in the ground and pound. So it
Ooh.
was absolutely, it was, that's the only thing that I have to talk about with this guy because absolute masterclass on just fucking up. Like,
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
it's really funny because he gets in here and he shoots immediately. Pretty sure he gets the takedown. He gets up and then he gets kicked in the leg so fucking hard, like he almost falls to the ground. But then he gets to the ground again, gets this nasty triangle choke. It's like you have it locked in. There's no way you can fuck this up. And then magically the dude's head slips out and he just starts ground and pounding this guy and he wins. You know, round one KO. Love to hear it from Hero. And yeah, I mean, these are just all the things that happen in one that just make this such a spectacle. You know, when you think you know something, no, you don't, because there's going to be a guy who is from Japan who, in my opinion, when he came out, listen, I've seen a lot of Japanese fighters. This guy, I don't know where he's been, but he looked like he ate a couple of the Japanese fighters, and he was fluffy. So this guy here, and especially in MMA, of course, because there was grappling here, he was just not cut out for it. Now, Hero, on the other hand, I'm not saying he was cut out for it either. He got in the triangle choke. You know, he let himself get all the way there. I'm just saying the other guy probably should have finished it. It's just unfortunate, but
True.
very, very fun event. I'll tell you.
Okay. Good deal. And so anybody else that we wanted
Uh,
to
Nothing really too out of the norm. I mean, obviously, you have a banger of a co-main and a main event. Up and leading into it, you know, you have some sprinkles in the Kunpan fight, 3 down against Sorn Seknoy. That one's a pretty good fight. Again, split decision probably doesn't lead you to believe that it's, you know, obviously it's not a round one knockout or whatever, but split decisions in this normally mean like it's a crazy fight because
sure.
how do you even give somebody a unanimous decision if it's back and forth when you're judging as a whole? Because you don't give one round to one round to another. It's just you know, it's close, you
Yeah, they
know.
have to be
It
neck
is.
and neck for sure in a fight that's judged as a whole. Yeah, not by
Yeah.
round
Yeah, but no,
for sure.
absolutely. I love one, and I absolutely had another good time. Another Friday morning was absolutely great. We have more one coming up, I believe, this Friday. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I hope there was other events that everybody else got to catch out there that were very, very good. Actually, before we get into the next one,
Yes.
shout out the chat, please, real
Oh,
quick.
absolutely. Guys coming in early.
Hydra, TJF, E Money J, Meet Rocket. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.
Yes. Thank you guys. And Beeb, I don't know if Chase got cut off there, but yes, you as well. I
Absolutely.
appreciate all you guys coming in early. Appreciate it very, very much. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. Yeah, so I mean, one championship sounded pretty good to me. If you were not aware, I'm sure that you are by now, but if you are not, Chase is live on Friday mornings, as he had said, for the Friday fights in one championship. Go over, hang out with my boy on his stream because these fights are a great way to start your day and often very, very entertaining. as Chase has made you understand.
Low stakes, guys. Like, this is not something that you got to make sure you're up and awake for. Now, me myself, I make sure I'm up and awake for them, but you casually can roll out of bed, turn on the YouTube, and these fights are going. And and I'm telling you, they go. So if you haven't seen yet, just make sure you start catching them, because free on YouTube majority of the time inside the United States, of course, and there's streams outside of the United States from the Tide channel. These fights go on, so just make sure you guys are there.
Absolutely can't beat that. So, well, I've got one that I would like to share with the class here. Let me get this switched over. Okay, so you may be aware that your boy finally partook in a little Glory kickboxing. This was great. All right. I really very enjoyed the Glory fights. I thought that this was a quality product from Glory. Everybody is aware of Glory, of course, because of Alex Pereira and the long history that Glory has had in combat sports. So this is not exactly new territory. It was new for me. I just, this is just a little blind spot, I guess you could say, in my combat sports knowledge base, as like the organizations that I have partaken in. I just never gotten to Glory. Now I have. And it was interesting specifically because what you can see here, if you were watching the stream, is that this was the last heavyweight standing finals. This was a tournament style, one night tournament situation. And let me tell you, we talk about narratives in this sport, Chase. The narrative of this event was it really was almost as good as some of the fights were, like in the big picture. So I'm just going to run you through what happened here real quick, and we can kind of just briefly go over it. There's, not in
Well,
any great detail.
I actually think I have a main question before I start,
Yes,
before we get into them. I mean,
sure.
I had been hearing, you had been told the reason you should check out Glory is because these fights are certified bangers. This is one of the most brutal combat sports promotions, is what I had heard from certain, commentators, of course. And I would love to hear your opinion. Is it as chalked up to be as what they have said?
No,
Ah,
no. Okay. What I will say is that for kickboxing, now we come from with one championship. We've seen a lot of kickboxing there, and we know that often we don't get a lot of knockdowns. They definitely don't get a lot of knockouts. There were definitely more knockdowns in Glory than I had seen in one championship. So knockdowns, absolutely. You got a couple of TKOs. That's good. As far as like clean flush knockouts and like oh shit moments, like like really like pop off moments, there were only a couple of those on this. But you got to also be keeping in mind that this was heavyweight. So these guys, heavyweight and tournament style. I think that the tournament element of this kind of puts a little bit of an asterisk on, on the whole thing, because if these were just individual fights, it could be a lot different. These guys anticipating having to fight more than once in one night could have put things in a little different light. So, I mean, I say no with a caveat that I will go and watch a Glory card that is just a straight regular style bout card and see if there's a difference there. We did have two standout performances that did end up in knockouts, and I'll talk about those in a minute.
well, you partially answered my second question. My second question is, obviously we watch one where kickboxing is on the back burner. We get one or two, maybe three kickboxing bouts. Actually, I forgot to mention with one, there was a kickboxing bout, one of the best that I've ever seen
Oh, great.
in one specifically. But either way, when I think of the kickboxing in one, it's like, oh God, can we just get this over with so we can get to the Muay Thai or the MMA? But if you would actually do me a favor, scroll back up to the top of this page.
Sure.
If this little banner right here, if this is what heavyweight kickboxing looks like, I am kind of bought in with this little trailer right here. Like, look at the spin kick that's about to be dropped here in a second. Like, holy shit, this is kickboxing. This is kickboxing.
That yeah,
Okay.
that's really you just nailed it right there. That's basically what I was going to say, is that like the kickboxing that I saw in Glory kind of blows one out of the water. I mean, like this was really like the quality level was definitely like there was at no time during this, even with the finishes and lack thereof or whatever, the conclusions of the fights being what they were, there was no time that I was watching it where I was like, man, I really wish I wasn't here right now. You know what I mean? Or I wish I was doing something else or watching something else. Like I was locked into this. And again, part of it does come from the narrative that I'm going to be outlining here in a second. But even if it wasn't that, it kept my interest. It was definitely like after we were done with this, I was like, I will definitely be doing more Glory. I enjoyed it.
No, I'm absolutely bought in. I mean, I actually think an entire Glory kickboxing card could be fun to watch. Again, this trailer right here, I get it's probably not from this specific tournament or whatever, but I'm bought in. If anything looks like this, because I've never seen anybody in kickboxing one look like this, like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let me just talk through a little
Yeah.
bit of what happened here because there's a couple of standouts that need their shine. This first fight, this is all main card here. The prelims were they were okay. They were good appetite, an appetizer, I guess you could say. Getting your appetite wet for more of the stuff. So not too much to talk about there anyway. But this first fight, Demar Kapu, solid fight. Good deal here, just a pretty standard deal. I would say that this started off about as on par with one championship as I would see in this. So I was like, okay, this is good. This is enough to like keep me wanting to stay with everything. But I'm waiting for like the real deal to kick in here, right? So
Mm.
that's just that. But so then we start getting into the actual tournament. Buzid versus Zimmerman. Zimmerman was a real big guy. He had a nice early flurry. Wasn't able to keep the stamina up. Buzid wins that one. This is now we're in the bracket here. So, Buzid takes that. This was a solid fight. No finish here, but this was definitely like, okay, you see that like had Zimmerman been able to get his shots off a little bit better, or if Buzid had a little bit of a weaker chin, could have been a first rounder, but Buzid, he muscled through all of that. Good deal with that. But then this is where we really needed to get to. This guy right here, Milos Svetichenin. This dude is the man, and I will explain why. Okay, so this fight right here, him versus Ludani, Svetichenin is throwing these stabbing toe forward body kicks, and they are crushing the body. He ends up dislocating his toe with one of those kicks, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm keeping going. I don't care." But like, you can see that he's like, unable to because it's just starting to add up. He gets his toe relocated mid fight, goes back and finishes the fight and wins the fight. This
Nice.
dude is, I mean, this is legendary in and of itself already. But I'm thinking to myself, like, bro, come on. There's no way that they're going to let this guy come back out. They end up letting him come back out for the semifinals, and I was like, oh, he at the end of this fight also said, broken toe, whatever, dislocated toe, this and that, you fight on. I was like, not only is this guy a gangster for what he just did, relocating his toe and continuing, but then for that to be his attitude. This guy right here, Milos, won a serious fan out of me. Like I'm a legitimate fan of this guy now.
Where's he from?
He is from Serbia, and shout out to all of my Serbians because the Serbians in the chat taught me the phrase "inat." And basically, what inat is essentially like the never give up spirit that the Serbian people embody. They say that Novak Djokovic has it. This guy has it. Like in the face of adversity, you do not give up. That is inat, and I really
Nice.
enjoyed learning about that. So if you ever hear me say that, that's where that comes from.
I was gonna wait until you wrapped up all of the fights, but considering you talked about how they let him back in after dislocating his toe or whatever, CTE, shout out for dropping by. I wanted to give you a
Yes.
great shout out for this comment right here. I am also still surprised about the fact that tournament styles are still being able to be sanctioned. The comment actually, it's still surprising that tournaments are still able to be sanctioned. Yeah, I agree. I think that's actually still pretty nuts. Like, why? Like when I found out like Yuri coming from Ryzen, a big thing is like his record is pretty padded because he had multiple fights and multiple nights kind of deal. It's like, dude, the way that dude fights, why would you let him ever fight more than once? Like Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
well, and based on what we're gonna, what this story is eventually leading up to, it kind of feeds right into that mentality because tournaments are predicated on the concept that people are going to be able to continue to fight. You know what I mean? That's the thing that I think is the fundamental flaw here. The way that the fight game has evolved, it's kind of hard to believe that people are going to come out of fights unscathed and be able to do that, even with these guys kind of conditioning themselves and trying to make it so that they're able to keep going on. But yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting that they can get it going, but unfortunately, I'm not gonna spoil it just yet. But you'll see where this story gets to, and we can reapproach
Gotcha.
that point.
Hell
So,
yeah.
all right. So then we got into this is the other half of the bracket here. This is Chroma versus Boapea. This Chroma guy gets a ton of love. I guess he's another guy in Glory who's had a lot of fights, so he's a well known figure in the sport. He did not seem that great to me. And the chat was roasting the hell out of me. Chroma is the man. You don't know Glory like that, and blah blah blah. What I saw out of Chroma was that he fought decently. I didn't like his shot selection all that much. He threw a lot of knees, which was cool in the clinch, but like it wasn't like super varied like what I was seeing from some of the other guys. And it looked like he was gassing out towards the end of the fight. So I'm like, how is this guy going to be fighting in a tournament if he's gassing out at the end of the first fight of the tournament? Whatever. He wins this fight. We move on. Osaru, this is Cookie is his nickname. This is our one knockout of the tournament here. This was a really good performance. This guy is cool. I liked him. He was who I wanted to win on this side of the bracket. So that's he moves on. Chroma moves on. Svetichenin moves on, and Buzid moves on. So this is a fight that was a throw in there, kind of like break up the tournament rounds sort of fight. Hamicha and combo. Um, Fine. Another one that was just kind of like fine. No, nothing, no shade at all, but just an okay fight. Again, really not too much to say about this one. But now we get into the semifinals here. And as you can see, Svetichenin comes back with the toe wrapped, leg wrapped all the way up with the toe, everything, trying to keep it in place and him being able to fight. And he wins this fight too. This man, this dude is a legend, bro. Like he in one night solidified legendary status to me. I'm like, you made a fan for life out of me with this tournament. So again, shout out to Svetichenin. Milos is that dude. So we get into the
Wait,
other.
what did he win by?
A decision. He won by decision.
Why? Okay, just I don't know. 3 minute, 3 round. The way that it said it right there, I thought it was gonna.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, because it's their 3 minute rounds, so yeah.
Oh, I got you.
But it was a majority decision too. So I think
Gotcha.
one person had it as a draw. This was a close fight.
Gotcha.
It was a good fight. I mean, and again, and you got to think this guy having a close fight with a bum toe. I mean, this is just an amazing thing that this was able to be that.
Yeah.
So we get into the other part of the semis. Chroma versus Osaru. I thought that Osaru was going to win this thing. Chroma somehow pulls out the win here. He definitely did win. So I'm not trying to say this was a robbery, anything like that. But the other part to note here is that Chroma and Svetichenin had fought in the past, and the chat was telling me that Milos got robbed by Chroma in their previous fight. So I'm like, narrative is set. We're getting the rematch in the finals of the heavyweight tournament. This is going to be epic. Then, unfortunately, what ends up happening? Well, no, okay, we'll get to the unfortunate part in a minute here. But this fight was awesome here too. This is the other big one that I wanted to mention outside of the tournament style. This was Rajabzadeh. His first name was Brahman, I believe. Barem, I think. Barem Rajabzadeh. This dude goes in there and just basically, we'll talk about a fight where that was very quick, where a dude just threw like a 3-piece combo and it was done. That was basically what this guy did. He just went in there, threw 3 punches, and the fight was over. This guy is a huge fan favorite. He was getting a ton of support in the chat before this fight. Everybody was asking me about him, so it was cool to finally see him in action. I guess he'd been retired for a little while and came back. All good here. Shout out to this dude. He was crushing in this fight. Very quick, in and out, all good. You'll see here. This is the unfortunate part. For whatever reason, Milos gets cleared to fight in the semifinals and then not cleared to fight in the finals. And then on top of that, both alternates, they had alternates to fight for the finals. Both of them wouldn't take the fight. So this Chroma guy, I guess, is much scarier than he seemed in the fights that I saw of him, because both of the alternates didn't want to take this fight. But it doesn't matter, because the bigger point and the most unfortunate point is that my guy Milos didn't get to have this fight. So what I'm praying, and this reminds me a lot of we talk about narratives, this reminds me a lot of like a WWE style thing where it's like something happens for the main event and now you're set up for the next event or whatever.
Yeah.
I am keeping my eye out for whenever. I pray to God they rebook the rematch with Chroma and Milos. And if that happens, your boy will be there front and center for the watch along, because I got to see how this thing goes now that I am a huge fan of Milos.
No, you got me bought. I'm ready for it. I would like to see Milos versus Chroma, of course. I think that is hilarious that they had 2 backups and they're like, I would never do this on even if he just won 2 fights after, before this or whatever. I would never do this.
Yeah, and like you kind of started to say there that this was I don't think that the winner gets $1 million, but this was $1 million tournament. So like, $1 million distributed, winner, second place, whatever. So there was a lot of money riding on the line on this fight, and both of those guys said not worth. So
Yeah.
again, this Chroma guy, he didn't seem as dangerous to me as what that would make you believe, but he did get to the finals of the tournament. And now I just got to see him versus Milos for that rematch, because if everybody in the chat was saying that it was a robbery in the first fight and this was what this was supposed to be, then that fight has to happen. They got to do it. Glory, make it happen.
My main question is, how did this affect the event? So when the last fight went on. You had your two heavyweights that just went on. So is there like a whole 15-minute discussion like nobody's stepping in to fight, like what are we waiting for, is anybody going to do this, where's Milos, what is exactly happening towards the end of this promotion, because I assume they have about time allotted, and then when that doesn't happen it's like, all right, back to the desk, Jim. So what do you got here?
Yeah, well, I think that basically while Rajibzadeh was fighting, or getting ready to fight, all of that part was going on. I think that's actually one of the smart things about how they structured this, is having filler fights in between the rounds of the tournament for something like this to happen. So, like, this fight goes on, they're figuring out what they want to do or what they can do backstage, and then when it came time for this fight to happen, basically just the announcer came out and explained everything that I just explained to you to the crowd. He
Nice.
basically went down the whole thing. This Chromo was going to fight. Milos is not, didn't get medically cleared because of the injury. So none of that's how I knew about the alternates, because I wouldn't have known about that otherwise. So he was like, yeah, we had two alternates. Both of them declined to take the fight. So you're winner. And basically they just crowned him the winner. So Chroma is the winner of the heavyweight tournament. He is the last heavyweight standing as far as this structure of everything, but that comes with a caveat. That's another reason why I think it's like WWE style, where it's like, you won the Royal Rumble, but you with the fans know, we know what's going on here. We know you didn't
Right.
really win that shit. So it's like that kind of thing. Like, so I really think that's why I love this, because it's like, this is the real deal fighting version of that narrative that you are familiar with. And now I am hooked. I'm as hooked as you would be under those circumstances. I need to see this fight.
No, no, this is definitely dope. I'm excited for Glory. We got to figure out when this next one is. Obviously, we got other things that we're keeping an eye on as well, like Ryzen. I know that they have some events that they sprinkle in throughout the year, but Glory, I mean, you got to add it to the list, guys. I mean, you got to keep reminding us and make sure you keep on us sometimes, because sometimes they slip by, especially with Ryzen. I mean, when I see that thumbnail, it's in a different language, guys. I don't know what it's saying until I get the translation. So help me out here, guys. But Glory definitely does seem fun. What I will say, I mentioned this previously. So Paramount Plus,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Paramount is a parent company for Pluto TV as well.
Right.
Pluto TV has old Glory tournaments on there. That's the reason I was like, I know Glory's on Pluto. I can't imagine it's free, but let me just type it in real quick. And they have heavyweight last standings, but or last man standing kind of deal, but it's older ones with Alex Pereira and is Israel Adesanya and shit like that. So they might
Sure.
have this one on there eventually, guys.
Yeah, that, and also those might be of value to pull a replay watch along at some point.
True.
Just go back and look at some of the classics, because yeah, I mean, this, like I said, I need to see a non-tournament style card just to get like the regular version of Glory. But based on what I saw here, and again, the narrative kind of plays into that too. So I need to see it without all of that. But just off of this, off rip for my first time, Glory made a fan out of me, and
Absolutely.
Milos definitely did.
I could be wrong, but the dude throwing the spin kick in this little promotion, it might even be that Milos dude.
It is, yeah. It absolutely,
Yeah,
that right there. Yep,
yeah.
that's him.
Jesus
That is
Christ,
him.
that
Yeah,
dude's a
absolutely.
fucking G.
Yeah, he's a legendary fight. Like, he has the exact fight style that you want to see, and he does it every fight. Like, I mean, like, that's the thing. That's why he ended up dislocating his toe, because he was stabbing the dude's body with his foot.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
think the last thing that I would say or that I would ask before we move on, because when I watch one, my main goal is like I'm trying to see who's the next one. Who's the next guy that's coming over to the UFC that we're gonna have to be out on the lookout for? Did you see anybody that you said, man, they have it all. They're young, like they're gonna get bored with Glory, like they're gonna want to transition, like what's the deal here? Because like if you when you look at Helena, the deal is she's been doing this already. She's at the top of the game. Like, what's more for her there? She has to expand and move on to other things. When you're the top of the game or whatever, and you have too much more to live, what's next? I mean, mixed martial arts or whatever. Is there anybody that you saw that you would say is gonna make that jump?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say 100% because of the tournament element of it. Guys possibly conserving a little bit more, also being heavyweight. It's like,
Hmm.
kickboxing and the translation to it to MMA certainly does track, but like, you're not seeing ground game or anything like that. But just strictly off of what I saw, I mean, I feel like a couple of it's at heavyweight in UFC specifically at heavyweight. Like, I think a couple of these guys could hang. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the Cookie Osaru. I mean, the guy who actually got a knockout in the tournament. Like, that was just him that just passed on the
Nice.
clip that's going. Yeah, I mean, like somebody like that, I wouldn't see why not if they wanted to come over. But we did find out recently, and this is just a little addendum note that ties into this. Our dude Rico Verhoeven, who was from Glory and was supposed to come over, he didn't come over to the UFC because he was not happy with the money that they were offering him. So any of these guys probably have the potential and could do good things in the organization. Do they want to come over for the money? That's, I guess, a different part of the equation. But as far as skills go, Milos definitely can hang. And I would say the Cookie Osara would be the other one if I had to pick two. Chroma, like he won the tournament, so I guess you should say him too. But like I felt maybe a little not as much with that, but maybe I'm just not as familiar.
Well, the reason I ask, and we're going to talk about it a little more here in a little bit, because when I find out that Dustin Jacoby is from Glory, before that, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, yeah, these are next level strikers. Like these guys they're going to go dominate MMA just striking alone or whatever. But Dustin Jacoby, it's like that rings to me as like, oh, that could be like the average Glory kind of guy, like that just wanted more out of the sport kind of deal. And when I now know that Dustin Jacoby is an ex-Glory guy, I'm thinking like, man, there's a possibility for a lot of these guys. If they look like that guy right there doing that spin kick, Milo, come on, Milos, get out of here. I mean, he's got to transition at some point. I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, there could be plenty of them. It's again just a matter of if Glory wants to let them go. I mean, they probably are paying some of these guys pretty well to stay to keep these cards going. The live stream on the watch along for me was very well attended. So obviously there is an appetite for Glory. It's got a fan base of its own. That was, I think, one of the other eye opening things to me was I didn't know what to expect doing the watch along, but there are a lot of fans of Glory. So there's a lot of dynamics, I guess, is what I would say, as when it comes to them coming over to the UFC. But as far as skills go, I saw a lot of highly skilled guys here, and I'm sure. And this was again just heavyweight and a couple of a few pepper fights from some other weight classes. If we saw a full card that was all different weight classes, I'm sure you would be seeing a lot of different versions of skill levels and different fight styles and stuff like that within kickboxing. So I think that Glory is a good feeder organization if they can make the financial element work for them.
Hell yeah. No, this definitely seems like something I got to catch sometime.
I would highly recommend it. Yes, Glory gets a big thumbs up from your boy. So that is Glory. I don't want to talk too much about this, but I did want to at least briefly mention it. BKFC had their Knucklemania event also on Saturday. If you were on the watch along with me after UFC, we watched a little bit of the end of this. I don't want to talk too much about it because we are going to be doing a full event rewatch of this. So tomorrow night, I don't know exactly what time yet. Check Twitter and Instagram. I'll give you a start time when I know. But we're going to be doing, they put the VOD of this event out so you can watch this for free on YouTube. You could have watched it live on YouTube as well, which is really smart on BKFC's part. But we are going to go back. We'll rewatch the VOD of this event in its entirety tomorrow night. So tune back into the channel tomorrow night, youtube.com/@YamaShow, and we will go through all of this together. But you probably have heard by now, so I will at least say congratulations to Andrei Arlovsky. The man is an absolute legend. And the fact that he has overcome the physical adversities that he has gone through with his health and whatnot to do the things that he is continuing to do, man is an absolute legend and an inspiration.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we can definitely talk about this once you do the rewatch. We'll hash it over if we get another stream throughout the week. This will be a good one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep your eyes open for a possible Friday night free for all.
Now we got Karate Combat this week.
Oh gosh, you are right. Yes. Well, then we'll have to figure something else out. But yeah, maybe we'll see what we can do. We'll work something out.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, all of that being said, that's all of the other stuff. But we are here, of course, to talk about the UFC and UFC Fight Night, Bautista versus Oliveira. Chase, did you watch this card?
I watched it, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if it's just because I was on a roll, and we'll obviously talk about this. But guys, I kind of really like this card. This was really fun. Like it was fun because man, it was goofy. Like when you get stuff that's just unexplicable, you just gotta laugh sometimes. Like you just gotta be here for the enjoyment because when we talk about some of this stuff, guys, you are not gonna believe it. Seriously, you had to be there.
Yeah, this one, yet another dude. I'm telling you, man, these are the things. You see me on the watch long, guys. You hear me say it all the time. These are the things that make me love MMA. You get the good, the bad, and the ugly almost every week. On when it comes to the UFC, it's always a circus. And you say circus, and it has a connotation. But when I say circus, I mean just what I said. the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's just what you get all the time. Sometimes the circus is very entertaining and it's exciting and it's amazing, and you're in awe of what you're seeing. Sometimes you're seeing things that you really should not be seeing, and then sometimes you're seeing things that just make you scratch your head and be like, why am I seeing what I'm seeing right now?
Yeah.
I think this card exemplifies that in a good way. Also, wanted to mention with this card, this was our first look at. I mean, if you unless you watched Zuffa boxing, which I did not, but this was our first look at the newly expanded Meta Apex. So, what did you think about the new Apex?
I couldn't really notice the differences until the wider shots, of course, but it's as if they moved the chair seating from around the cage to just one centralized area, which I don't really like that. I kind of liked that you were like in the fight environment when you were the friends and the family, like you were just on like some bleachers, like right behind the coaches and shit. Now there's like there's own sectional seating for them, and it is a little higher up. It goes a little higher, but it didn't necessarily look like, oh man, they're selling out the place kind of deal. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think that that's probably a logistical slash architectural limitation that they probably had. Like, there's probably some elements of the structural makeup of the building that make it so that they had to do it in a certain way. So it's like it is what it is with that. But I also kind of thought that it's like, yeah, you don't really notice too much of a difference visually from the presentation. How I noticed the difference, and we will certainly talk about it, is the audible element of it. You can hear the crowd a lot more, a lot more readily now. And because it is still a small environment, I mean, I think it's only like 1,200 people or something like that, 1,000 people maybe, that they can fit in that place. You're still in a small room with a lot of people. So when it gets loud, you are hearing the things that they are saying, and that will come up. So keep your
I
eyes open.
I think that is also part of an issue that happened on Paramount's end, and I'm not trying to say that they weren't louder or they weren't necessarily being loud because of the new seating, but there was an audio issue on Paramount's end for this
Hmm.
event. A lot of people were talking about it online. I've gotten better at not listening to them, but when you look at the clips, I mean, and you listen back, you kind of remember like, damn, it was quiet as fuck during that thing. Like you couldn't even hear the commentators for a lot of the shit going on. So I don't know what was going on Paramount's end, but yeah, a lot of people were having this issue where they just couldn't even hear the commentators. So
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, on the watch along, it's sometimes maybe I'm not catching all that stuff in the moment. What I did notice is on the rewatch. I always rewatch all of these fights. I that element did come into play when they would go to what would be commercial breaks for like people who don't have the without ads version of the service.
hmm,
Like it would cut to the commercial, but then we the viewer would stay with it, and it would just cut the audio out, and then it would just like you'd hear like muffled, like it would be like in the corner. Normally you would be hearing cornering, and I was like, that's cool. I want to hear the cornering, but it was just, yeah. I think that Paramount is still working out some of the kinks, is
yeah.
really what it's coming down to. But all of that being said, I mean, really, we did the intro, but I'll intro it again. This is, of course, UFC Fight Night. Bautista versus Oliveira took place at the Meta Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we get into the fights?
No, I think I'm really excited. This will be really, really fun.
All right, well, let's do just that then. Start it off with the first fight of the evening. Of course, this was Claudia Saigula versus Priscilla Kishweda. The first of many of the wrong predictions that I'm going to have this week, but a right one for you, Chase. What'd you think of this one?
I thought this one. Listen, this was a very good performance for Saigula. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm God for picking her because she didn't necessarily, hit a home run. She had a good striking performance and she did a great 3 rounds of what she needed to do to win. She's a lot tougher than I think we were maybe giving her credit for. I mean, that's obviously something that you have to find out. You can't really put stock into someone being tough until you find out. So she's a lot tougher than I figured that I was going to give her credit for before this fight. Her striking is. I mean, she trains with Joanna. I mean, she's Polish. She does fine. But I'm not necessarily going to say that she's got championship gold coming at her right now. I mean, I know that's hard to say 8-2. She's got a lot to go, but we're still gonna have to see a lot more out of her. I just thought this was a very clean performance and exactly what I thought she could do. Priscilla was just gonna walk forward, zombie girl her way into punches, and she showed she was tough. But I figured I already knew that. Segula just put a beating on her and took some pretty big shots. I would say that was all that I would note out of that.
Yeah, I mean, this was really just rock'em sock'em robots between these two. No real level changes of note. I thought that Senko made a pretty good point. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing what you're saying about
Yeah.
the people talking about the commentary. I don't really recall having too much of that issue. I mean, unless it was just for the live and they fixed it on the replay, because I have a couple of notes in here where I reference some of the things commentary says, and like this is the first one of those where I'm like, Senko had a good point to me when she said that Saigula established her respect level early. Like she wasn't giving Kashweda the leeway to bully her, which is exactly what Kashweda does. She
Mhm.
marches forward, she bullies her opponents. They start to get in their own head about it, and then she's able to overpower them. Saigula was one step ahead of her, and I think that my underestimation was not necessarily in her toughness, but in her speed and movement. I thought Saigula was moving very well in this fight. It was also paired with the lack of speed from Cachoeira and her lack of ability to cut off the cage. Like Cachoeira was allowing Saigula to just run laps around her for the majority of this fight. She was picking her apart at all angles, getting in, getting shots, moving. She really was not cutting definitely not cutting off the cage enough, but also not kicking enough. She did a couple of leg kicks, but like I had a note in here that I said that like 19 landed leg kicks should have been 30 based on the distance that Saigula covered in this fight.
Mhm. Yeah, this one, I I'm not gonna say I knew this one was coming to be a decent performance. When you have 2 women coming in at the first fight of the night, UFC knows what they're doing. Once again, we're starting 2026 off right with this assumption. It is going to be a banger, and you had 2 women who weren't afraid to get punched in the face. You can't really ask for much more when it comes to a fight like this. I mean, Segula, what I will say also when you look at the numbers, I mean, pretty good volume with her striking too. Not just the accuracy, not just the range. She threw 350 strikes. I mean, she landed 159 of them. I mean, she's cooking. I'm not gonna lie. So if she has targets that are gonna stand in front of her, like Priscilla, good. But not all of her opponents are gonna walk forward and eat the shots like that. So I think Sagula, she's just got to keep bulking up, getting stronger, getting that old woman strength, and maybe one of these days people will not be able to walk through her punches. But I think for what it is right now, she's going to be punching people in the face, and they're probably just going to keep walking forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you were definitely right. Saigula, volume plus cardio, all fight. These are the things I really do give her some credit for that maybe I was a little bit harsh on before. I came in with a perception of Saigula that has proven to be inaccurate, and I'm adjusting the way that I view her now. I do think that there is some of your point that we need to see her like against like a variety of different types of fighters. We definitely need to see somebody who's going to take her to the ground more than this. I mean, Cachoeira is such a one-dimensional fighter, and that I think was also one of my big flaws in picking her is that I thought she was going to be able to bully her. Saigula proved that not to be the case, and that is a big credit to her because that is what Cachoeira wants is to like separate the pack basically by a very specific metric, which is to be able to bully, overpower, and just knock you out. Eventually wear you down to the point that she can knock you out. Saigula, wise to all of that. So I'm evolving my thinking about her, but I do think that there's some remaining data that we need from her.
Yeah, true. I'm excited to see again 8-2. We got a lot left to see out of her. I think she'll be decent enough to. I mean, bantamweight guys, she'll be ranked by mid this year. So can't
True.
really say too much.
Yeah, and it's a good point too, because she is like her body type. I mean, she is tall, but like she's not necessarily built like how I would like picture most of the
Mhm.
bantamweights, but like she somehow gets by there. So she's got a lot of tall orders later on down the line, but she can get to them very quickly. So it really kind of goes back to what we had said early in the year when we did the state of the divisions, where it's like if you are a woman right now, then now is the best time to be a female mixed martial artist, especially in this division. Go out there, start getting wins. You will shoot up quickly. Keep it going, Claudia. You'll do just that if you keep winning.
Hell yeah.
It's a good deal. All right, let's move on to the next one here. This is Muin Gafarov versus Jacob Wikvash. Of course, Gafarov missed weight by 5 pounds. This is a major, egregious weight miss on Gafarov's side, but Mr. Vikvash over here turned it into quite an entertaining affair. And there's we talked about the good, bad, and the ugly. This is actually not a super ugly one in the end result. Thankfully, this is actually a feel good story of this card. If you're a regulatory nerd like myself.
Yes, I actually am very happy with the outcome. But before we get into that, we should note a few things. This fight started, and you instantly can know Jakob is fucking massive. He's one of the biggest bantamweights that you'll ever see in this fucking
Yeah.
division. This dude is huge. Now, what you'll also see is that he has cardio issues, just like most of the people that are oversized in their division. Now, that's not the worst thing ever because he did look decent while he was tired. I mean, granted, his opponent had 5 extra pounds on him. The thing is that he probably was going to lose this fight. Jakob was probably going to lose 2 of these rounds had he not pulled off this Hail Mary of a performance here. And I'm not going to say that it was just a once in a million opportunity. I mean, it definitely was close, but he has skills. It's not like he just pulled this out of his ass. Like it's not like a striker Alex Pereira gets a submission. If he would have got the guillotine on Yuri, it's like what the fuck, whatever you want to say.
Right.
Jakob was going for submissions. He obviously has skills and he trusts his ability. And when he got this choke in at the last second, I genuinely was fearful that they were going to screw this guy over. They were going to screw him over so bad because what happened in this situation is Jakob gets the choke in, and Muingafarov is doing, first off, he's doing his greatest impression of "I'm cool. Here's my thumb up. I'm good. Let me take the mouthpiece out," and then he starts panicking, and then he taps right at the fucking bell. And they obviously go and see if he was tapped before the bell, if it's after the bell, did the ref stop it, whatever the case may be. There doesn't even matter because we as the fans know he tapped before the fucking bell. We were just waiting to see what the organization was going to pull. Do they think they can pull the fast one on us or not? And at the end of the day, they decided they couldn't, and they gave Jakob the submission win. And I'm just very grateful that that's how it ended up. There's one more piece of context left, but I want to go ahead and let you talk about this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that might be what just got put into the chat. But yeah, no, so this was like the fight up until this point that you're talking about with the ending. I thought it was a pretty good fight. Honestly, I enjoyed this. Jacob, he got a nice stunner shot off rip. I mean, the first shot of the fight kind of sent Gafarov back. So I'm like, okay, we're in for at least a competitive fight. You never know how 5 pounds of a weight miss is going to affect things, but competitive. Really, I like the way that Gafarov was working the body. I thought his body shots were really, really effective in this fight. You talk about Jacob with the cardio issues. A great way to get the cardio already diminished, even without him naturally gassing, is by working the body, and that's exactly what Gafarov was doing. So there was a lot to like about this. One thing that I said, or at least that I had in the notes based on what I saw from Vikvash, is that he might fall into the same creativity trap as Hoofy, where he's fun to watch, but his style and the creativeness that he tries might get a little dangerous at the higher levels. Like you see it when he's trying to jump Gilly and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the grappling ended up working to his advantage later in this fight, but it's just one of those things that like stuck out to me. It's like when I see him going for those front headlocks and like trying to circle around to the side with them and dragging people in weird directions and stuff, I'm like, you it can be effective, but you have to be like triple sure that you're doing it correctly every time, because there's always openings that you're going to leave when you get too creative. But that's besides the point for right now. I thought that Gafarov was working really nicely with some great combinations. Then Gafarov is like walking away with this fight. It kind of felt like to me in those between the second and the third rounds, I guess that would have been the first and the third round, excuse me. But at the horn, Vikvash gets the tap. I mean, and now what you ended up seeing was that Gafarov is tapping. He did the double tap, because on the watch along, you'll see. I thought it was after the horn, because I was watching, I think, the outside hand, but the first hand goes on the other side. So I forget which hand was which in that equation, but one of the hands goes first. That's the one that's before the horn. The other hand is going like on and at the horn kind of thing. But he was definitely tapping in double time there. And I think it was Nav. Shout out to Nav, who was in the chat a little earlier. I think it was Nav who said if he had just listened to Habib and just went out, he probably would have won that fight.
Well, it's not even just about that portion of it. I think it's really funny that because Moin Gafarov trains with Marab and Aljo, those are the people that were in his corner, which is really funny. So after the fight, they make a social media video and they're like, guys, I mean, he was tapping because he heard the bell and he was like, get off me, get off me. It's like, if he heard the bell before it went off, that's because circulation was lost in his brain, and he's hallucinating, and he's, begging for his life to be, saved at this moment. So if you want to believe that he heard the bell and then tapped, sure. But again, I watched with my eyes and heard with my ears. I mean, sound travels pretty fucking fast, guys. And I tell you, his hands were not tapping before that bell. And I'm just very glad that they didn't screw over Jakob here, because this was a good performance, and I think a performance he deserved to win, especially after Gafarov missed weight, after he got up acting like he didn't tap. So no, 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 nope, did not tap. No, brother, no, brother. And then you lose by submission. That's what you fucking get. So I think it's actually really, really funny.
Yeah, that is definitely a hilarious way to try to cover this up. That it was just get off of me, bro. We
Yeah.
saw because if it was that dude, like we saw the same guy with the double thumbs up, like mere seconds earlier, and then a very very panicked look on your face when you started to really feel the constriction. So give me a break with that. That's a ridiculous way for that to be the case. But save face however you think you're going to. We'll be the judge of how we perceive that information. The last note that I had was just to piggyback off of what you've been saying is that I said, I had done a video a long time ago about Nevada State Athletic Commission and their use of the replay system. I was very critical of them in that video because I at the time and throughout many times that we've seen, specifically, we see so many fights in Las Vegas, we see so many fights in Nevada, and often they're not utilizing the replay system effectively to get things right. And there were a bunch of examples I had in that video. Finally, I am so happy to finally be able to say this is a situation where the replay system was actually used correctly. And that makes me very happy for the oversight of this sport, because we're going to talk about some other stuff when it comes to the oversight of this sport that needs correcting. If they're making small improvements throughout the course of history here, I'm at least happy to see any kind of forward motion. So this fight was a good touch point of the replay system effectively utilized.
Did you enjoy, I think it was Chris, did you enjoy him having to explain to both the fighters after it? He's like, all right, I'm just going to tell you how it is. You tapped before the bell. Yes, you yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. I saw it. I saw it on the replay. And
But this is why Chris Tione is still like my favorite referee of all of the current referees, because like when you have to deliver that kind of information, doing it in like the grandfatherly way that he did it is like the best version of that. You know what I mean? If that was Mercliata, he'd be like, all right, buddy, you tapped. What do you want from me, man?
yeah.
That like, and then everybody's getting mad. But yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown, big letdown for Gafarov, but it is the truth. So, oh well, and it gives Jacob the big pop. I think that it was perfect. I'm always happy with that. I think Chris Tione is my favorite, man.
Yeah, no, this was really good. I think Jakob deserved a win. Gafarov got exactly what he deserved. And people are not, the average consumer is not going to understand how powerful of a moment it is to watch him thumbs up and then go to reach to take out his mouthpiece, realize that it ain't coming out because my chin is locked shut. And then he starts to fucking tap. And then he gets up acting like he didn't fucking tap. Brother, we saw you fucking tap. So whatever.
Two hands,
Yeah.
hands you tapped. Give me a break, my guy.
Yep, great performance though. I like Jakob. I'm very happy that he got the win.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely. I think that there are definitely like noticeable improvements to be made over time, because he is a newer guy to the UFC specifically, but a lot of raw talent there. And I think that those improvements can happen. So yeah, really glad that he got this win. I'm excited to see him continue on. Do you agree with the Rainier de Ritter comparisons here, or is it just because they both have the blonde hair?
I think they do kind of look alike. I mean, yeah, it's just like a super stern chin, and I guess maybe the blonde hair. Does RDR have blonde hair? No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does. Of course he does. He does. God, he's got the dyed blonde hair. RDR?
I don't know if is this facts, guys. I don't know. Maybe I just don't remember what he looks like right now.
Oh
That'd
my
be just
God,
raw.
brother. That's like a staple of his look.
Either way, yeah. I mean, I guess I can see it. Either way, he's
All
cool.
right, fair enough. Yeah, no, he is cool, and I'm happy that Jacob stays around.
I'm also happy that if Gafarov is no longer in the picture, we don't have to see that patch of hair on his back.
It's what I had said about Gavarov. I mean, now two separate things, but they're kind of connected. The reason I always remember Gavarov is because of the odd back hair that he has on the one side of his body. And look, I'm not here to shame the guy or try to make him feel bad over it. It is just something noticeable visually that you connect with him. But that's also why I remember that he ain't it. That's what I remember with the Rinya Nakamura fight I was talking about last week, where I'm like, this dude will trick you into believing that he's a better fighter than he is. Had he won this fight, the 5-pound weight, it's what you always say, Chase, when you're like, what's going to be on paper? He won the fight on paper. Are they going to talk about the 5-pound weight miss? It might be a little asterisk somewhere, but it's going to be in the wins and loss columns as a win. We know the real deal here. We know the full story. I'm glad that this did not go down as a win for him. He missed weight here. He gets an easy dub over Nakamura in a fight that was just kind of bizarre if you really break it down. This guy is not it. Like, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. I'm really not trying to dogpile him as a person. He's representing Tajikistan, underrepresented country in the sport. Like, only a couple of fighters from there. Like, it's nice to see that happening. But like, I do it the right way. Just do it the right way and make that the narrative. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but I'll always remember because of the back hair.
I agree.
All right. Well, all that being said, I'm glad that I got my little Moon Gaffarov back hair comment in there. But moving on to the next one. Yes, Chase, very excited about this, of course, is Wang Tong versus Eduarda Mora. Both of these women missed weight by 1.5 pounds. So this ended up being a catch weight fight.
Yeah. So if both of them miss weight, what's the purse look like? They both just nobody loses? Like,
yeah, I think that kind of just cancels each other out. That's why they made it a catch weight, so that it's just, it doesn't count as a
send that
mystery.
shit back to the fucking promotion. If you miss weight, you missed weight. I think we need to start a new thing right now. If both you and your opponent miss weight, you both should still lose the same percentage for missing weight as other
It's
people.
a good point. It actually might be that way. That actually might be what it is. They might have as like a clause in their contract that if you miss weight, you just forfeit that regardless.
Okay.
So yeah,
Fair.
but I honestly don't know the answer. So yeah, that would make sense though.
Okay, fair. But either way, this fight here, I was very happy with this fight. This was pretty good because you had where do I want to start? Wang Tong. I came in here very confident that you guys are going to see what a real elite level striker is. Like this is a striker right here. I know everybody wants to talk about Mauricio Hufi. He's good. Listen, Wang Tong is a striker, guys. And listen, there's specifically one thing about her striking game that should show you, just because not many people can do this, especially women. She actually set up punches to the body that amounted to a knockdown, not even from a body strike. She set up a body punch so nice that when Moira dipped at one point, she punched her straight across the face. That just dropped her to the fucking ground. And it wasn't even if Wang Tong wanted to punch her in the face. Like, that should tell you, like, if she was really gunning for this bitch, she probably could have dropped her, like, even unconscious. But tried to get her with the body shot. Moira dipped right into it, put her face right into this punch, got dropped, big whoop. But either way, obviously Wang Tong is dominating. And then second round, this is where the crazy stuff happens. Moira comes back with a monster second round. Moira is just, it's not pure domination because she ain't doing shit really with the striking. But I mean, she's racking up. I mean, this is like 5 minutes of control time. She's got her down on the mat the entirety.
I had said that there was a possibility that in some world that could have been a 10-8 round personally.
I was having people also tell me that this was a 10-8 round for Moira. I was arguing she was not doing anything with she wasn't damaging her, so you can't really argue at that.
Fair, yeah, it's fair.
But 10-9 nonetheless. Obviously, she won this round, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But then at the end of this round, she gets a fucking rear naked that is, I mean, if anybody had watched Wang Tong get submitted by Gabriela Fernandez, you would believe, oh, she's going to tap. Like, she knows how to tap because she has been in this position before. She clearly is a kickboxer, whatever you want to say. She's going to tap like chicken. But the fact is, I saw Wang Tong put up more of a fight than somebody that we're going to talk about later on who has been training jiu-jitsu since probably elementary school. Wang Tong picked this shit up in her sleep 2 weeks ago, and she had more heart to get out of an RNC than people who have been training this their entire fucking life. Not only did she get out of it, she ended the round, comes back in the third round with a very convincing performance. Not only is winning the third round, tries to submit the Brazilian with her own move. You can't make this shit up. Talk about balls, guys. If you try to pull a submit, like, imagine Charles Oliveira, if someone was trying to just choke him out, you'd be like, what in the world? Like, what? Like, Armin, But
Right.
either way, like Wang Tong truly, I genuinely believe it. Like we had him in the second round. I know everybody had it. They're like, damn it, there it is again. She got taken down and she's done. She's never gonna be Shevchenko. You know, she beat her in kickboxing. She's never gonna get that rematch. Blah 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 blah. She didn't get submitted. She actually finished the round. Granted, it was a shit fucking round. It was one of the worst rounds that she's ever had in the organization. But she came back for a monster third round. It's not about how you start, it's not about how it's going, it's about how you finish. You know, a lot of people, and we'll talk about later on, you know, there's a lot of people who accept defeat and they throw in the towel early. There's a lot of people who accept defeat and they're content with just losing for 5 rounds rather than getting finished, you know. But there are some people who, you know, losing a round, that is just not good enough, bro. I'm not just going to win this next round. I'm going to try to fucking rip your head off now, bro. Like, damn, like you've had me gurgling for blood. Now it's my turn. And like Moira, shout out to Moira. She did the Muin Gaffarov thing where she's got the thumbs up. She's not tapping, but like it is a damn good picture to see Wang Tong one armed trying to get a choke. Like it ain't never gonna happen. Of course, she even had that bitch locked in. Like never gonna happen. But just the fact that she was willing to do that for a win, give her the fucking scorecard 30-27. Who were you even watching at that second round, brother?
Oh
But
yeah, well
Jesus.
let's talk about that in a second because I you know we've talked about this a couple of times and I think it bears repeating. But let me just briefly touch on some of this stuff. I think you really gave a pretty good breakdown of all of this. What I had said coming into this fight was that Moira, I think that Moira, she you know if she the game plan was pretty well set. Get her to the ground, do what you do best on the ground, and don't let her get back up. That's a pretty solid like pathway to victory in my mind. That's something that she could have done. Wang Tong really showed that like she's got some tenacity when it comes to those types of positions. That was the big note that I had for that because Moira, she is good at that, and the game plan was that was what she was trying to do. She had the right idea. It's just she wasn't sadly, she wasn't up to the challenge of actually executing it across 3 rounds. Like you said, that second round was a big comeback for her, and that certainly was trending her towards the right direction. But 2 rounds out of 3, 1 round out of 3 ain't enough. You got to be able to do that, especially if that is going to be your one pathway to victory. That one attack strategy is that thing, and that is going to only be the thing. You have to be able to do that thing over the course of all of the rounds, and that is what she was unable to do here. Moira's lack of cardio, I think, again, kind of bit her in the ass in that third round. She couldn't get the trip like she was trying to, nearly getting subbed by a kickboxer. Had that in the notes. Bloody affair, you know, in this one as well. I mean, there was some decent damage being landed throughout the entirety of it, mostly, of course, from Wang Tong's side. Moira was painting the canvas for a little while there, and I said that I felt for Moira in the end because I think that in this fight she did a lot of things right based on her strengths, but you know, it just wasn't enough in the big picture, sadly. And really that's a major credit to Wang Tong. She's very powerful for her frame. Like, you know, you see her, she's tall, she's slender, her arms are not that big, you know, like she's like in a if you saw her on the street kind of thing, you'd think, wow, you know, she's got a little
Look at that little
definition.
Asian boy.
I would say,
Sorry.
you know, it's like such a, I mean, perhaps, but you know, it really is that she's got a little definition in her arms, but she's not dangerous by outward appearance. But you see how she can land power with these shots. I'm like, that is very impressive to be able to pull that off with the natural elements that you have. So all the credit to her, man. I mean, I've always liked Wang Tong. She's got a great personality too. She's just fun. She's a fun person. So really nothing to not like. I mean, like, you know, I think she's got everything to like and nothing to not. So good deal here. Good win.
All right, but the real question is, who came in with the better hair color?
Oh, well, that is it's funny that you mentioned that. I've been slightly critical, and I'm not trying, you know, it's not our place to be sitting here judging the physical attributes of any of these fighters, women, men or women. You know what I mean? You know, we're commenting on the sport. These are things that you comment on. It comes up from time to time. I have been slightly critical of Moira's uh, facial shape in the past, perhaps. I said on the watch along, I don't know if it was just the hair or what it was, but I was like, she's looking really good with this hair color, man. I liked the silver. I don't know. It's like it takes a certain type of like added, like because of Amanda Lemos had the silver for a long time, and I never really thought that she looked all that great with it. for some reason, Moira with the silver was working for me, bro.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny because like, I don't remember Wang Tong ever coloring her hair, but I feel like she saw Moira with a new hairstyle, and she's like, I could do red. I could do something too. Fuck it, you know? Like, I don't know. Really good fight, really good performance, but I don't know. 30-27 is absolutely
Well,
crazy to see.
we have to talk about this. So yes, you had posted a tweet in the Discord, and the general sentiment of it, I don't have it on hand, but the general sentiment of it was there is absolutely atrocious judging going on a regular basis in this sport, and no one seems to care. We have these kinds of incidents. Now, this is one where it ended up going right in the big picture, so it just gets swept under the rug. It gets kind of breezed over. But for there to have been a 30-27 in this fight, that needs to be explained. That needs to be answered for. In this case, I believe it was Kevin Weeks was the judge. Now, what this tweet, and then another one that I had retweeted recently as well, kind of expanding on this talking point, is that we have the same people week over week, both judging and refereeing this sport for what feels like an eternity. Do you mean to tell me that there are no other people who can do these jobs? Do you mean to tell me that there are no other people that want to do these jobs? Why do we not have an expanded base of oversight in this sport and no accountability of any type? Because week over week, these things happen. We all make a stink about it. When our parlays bust and we tear our tickets up, and then you're pissed off for an hour, and then the next fight starts or whatever, and then you're on to the next thing. But this is consistent, and you would think that at some point this would become more of an issue that would be talked through by more people.
I've been saying this before. Again, like you even said, I mean, this time it went right. Nobody's really mad that it went a 30-27 to Wang Tong. I mean, it's crazy that it did, but if you guys don't get mad that they randomly just don't pay attention to the fights, if they give Wang Tong a 30-27 here, I mean, I got mad a few months ago. They gave 4-1 Mackenzie Dern, and I was the crazy one for saying something about it. Listen, I'm not saying it was the wrong call, but like, you at least got to have some suspicion that not everybody's winning these fucking rounds this convincingly. If I'm sitting here questioning it, whatever. I mean, but 30-27 for a clear cut, almost 10-8 for the other person, that one's ridiculous. But I can't get too mad at it. People will tell me to shut up when I get mad, and it's somebody that I don't even care about. Wang Tong is somebody I care about, and it went her way, so I'll shut up this time. So
Well, but see, that's the thing, is that it's not about it's not about the win or the loss necessarily, unless it becomes the thing that makes the decision. But it still is about the individuals and the effect that it has on any given fight at any given time. Like that is it's unacceptable, even with the overall outcome being correct. And that is one of those things that I think just needs to be more. There needs to be more attention put on it. Um, what I have said many times, it's kind of got buried in another older video, but I'll say it here as well. I think that there are three basic things that can make the oversight of this sport a lot more credible and a lot more effective. It's more people, better training, and accountability. That's really the core framework that you need to expand and improve all of these elements. More people involved, so you have a greater pool of individuals who are all trained better, that have a better understanding of what they need to be looking at, a better understanding of the rule set and how to apply the rule set, and then some form of accountability. Now, you've speculated or posited in the past that, maybe having them either verbally say something about their decision making, or writing something out, putting out some kind of statement. I think that there's some merit to that, absolutely. Whether it's that or some other form of accountability in some way, shape, or form, I don't have the exact answer for that piece right here, right now. But what I do know is that there needs to be some motion towards that direction of some type of accountability in some way, shape, or form. Because if not, then we continue to go through this cycle week over week. And then you and I talk about it week over week. I mean, Chase, we've been doing the show for almost 2 years now. We've been talking about this since we started.
yeah, I agree. Somebody's gotta advocate for real change, and I don't mean Tom Aspinall.
There you go. Well, so anyway, that's just a little bit of an aside about that, but I think that, I think it's necessary. And, the Tom Aspinall and the fouls equation, that's its own ball of wax, of course, but not dissimilar. I mean, part of the same world over here. There need to be changes and improvements to the oversight of mixed martial arts. That's at the end of the day the main point of what I wanted to get across.
Absolutely. But, that being said, Wang Tong, great performance. Very excited to see what's coming next for you. Moreover, I'm also excited to see what's next for you. But I will say it was a losing a third round to Lauren Murphy in 2025. That was my clear indication of why you were not going to beat Wang Tong. And evidently, almost getting submitted by Wang Tong in round 3 in 2026 is a new bingo card, little cross off there. So
Yeah, most definitely. Mora did get some respect from me in this fight because of the grit that she showed to be able to continue on and get that second round after a pretty heavy adversity in the first round and all of that. So I think that my respect level has improved a little bit for her. It's jumped a little bit, but I just still see some of the same holes in the game. Like this is one of those instances to me where like you push the fighter past the limits that they've shown before and they meet that, so that's good because you're seeing
mhm.
like they can go to that next limit point, but they are still limited, period. So what does that equal up to? You decide how you view that. But really I think that Wang Tong did everything that she needed to do here, and like you said, having a possible submission in there as well doesn't hurt anything. I said it would have been very wild if she had pulled that off.
I think the last thing that I'll say is this is not the first time that Moira's missed weight. She obviously is having some issues cutting down. I- She doesn't look very quick at this weight. She's very, she uses her size to impose her will a lot. I don't know if she's ever gonna, she's probably gonna be forced to go up eventually if she continues to miss weight. I also don't even know if I want to believe that she missed weight per se because they both missed by like a pound and a half or whatever. Seems kind of suspicious that they both just missed by the same exact weight. Like maybe something was off here. I don't know. Wang Tong doesn't seem like I'm just gonna miss by a pound and a half type of girl. Moira has definitely shown that she's kind of in that ballpark, but like, I don't know. I saw the picture of her on the scale and she looked pretty confused. I believed her. Maybe she was just looking cute that day. I believed her, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, whatever the case is with that, I mean, at least they both did miss by the same amount, so it kind of negated
Right.
all of that. But whatever it is, I don't know. I chalk that up to just being an unfortunate situation, and it is not good. I mean, of course, you know how I feel about weight misses in general, and it's be a professional, come in at weight. It, it's kind of a non-consequential fight in a lot of ways, except for Wang Tong, just knowing how Mora is not really going to be someone who I think is going to advance very far. So
Mhm.
I'm just glad to see that Wang Tong ended up making it hers based on all of that.
And at the end of the day, guys, I know Wang Tong, she has the submission loss to Gabriela Fernandez, but her pro record in MMA is still 9-1. So one loss is not that bad. Islam has a really bad loss, and it aged fine. Everybody's cool after that one. He's the fucking goat now. So
Yeah, 9-1 with knockout power. So
exactly. There you go.
yeah, keep that always in mind when it comes to the lady fighters. If they have knockout power, that's someone to always keep your eye on.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us to our next one here. This was a fun one in a lot of ways, but another crazy one. This is Javid Basharat versus Johnny Vasquez. Of course, Vasquez missed weight by 5 pounds himself. We talk about the inexcusable nature of that. However, he was in on. Did we lose Chase? Chase is gone, but Chase is right back.
Continue on, thinker. I
All right.
apologize.
No problem, brother. But yes, I was saying that Johnny Vasquez did miss weight by 5 pounds, but of course he was in on 3 days' notice. So I mean, was at least what they said on the broadcast. I don't know if they were being hyperbolic, saying that they called him on Wednesday afternoon, but either way, short notice nonetheless. And so you give him a little bit more leeway, I would say, with that.
Well, since you brought that up, the first thing that I will note is Basharat actually in his post-fight speech was pissy about this. Like, my fucking opponent missed fucking weight. Like, they're so unprofessional. Well, it was short notice, my guy. Like, you needed an opponent. So, like, how about you fucking thank him for giving you a paycheck? So
Right.
let's talk about that for a second. But the thing that I would like to say is you say this was a fun fight. You say this was interesting. I'm gonna beg to differ. Javid Basharat, this guy's not good. This guy is not very good, guys. I mean, I get, he got the knockdown or whatever early. Cool. Um, Vasquez is also not very great, But he did make it interesting. I will say the thing that I liked about him is he kind of reminded me of Vince Morales. This is actually a guy who has a threatening submission game. When it gets to the ground, he goes for submissions. And it's not like, okay, he's got him in a position. Like he's actually trying to set up something that's going to finish the fight. He didn't get it. I mean, but he showed something is possible, I would say. If you have somebody who's actually a great jiu-jitsu guy, you could probably finish this on Basharat. But you didn't really have to showcase much Vasquez. You just had to be in there with Basharat and let him expose himself. Oh, brother.
Wow. More?
Today we are
I
having a good one already.
oh,
But
good Lord.
Basharat just had to be in there with himself, basically. He just had to showcase that he's exactly what he is. And we all knew that he's not really that great. I mean, when it comes to brothers, you have one that's really, really good, most likely, and one that's maybe not as good. And this is definitely the case of the brother that's not as good. And, a guy on 3 days' notice, if you're some killer, I mean, it doesn't matter what the game plan is supposed to be. You have a game plan that is always in your system that you take into every fight because that's your number one thing that works. He didn't really have that. It seemed like, I mean, what did he do that made me think that Vasquez probably couldn't have won this fight? Like if he had 15 days of notice. I don't know.
That's really why I thought it was kind of fun, was because yes, you are right. This is definitely the weaker Basharat brother for sure.
Mhm.
Javid did not have a go out and win the fight game plan after he had gotten the drop in the first, really. I said that that's really what made it crazy, is that it turns out Vasquez wasn't such a softball after all. I mean, this guy coming in on short notice from outside the organization in debut, like granted the weight miss is what it is, but like you would think that for the seasoned UFC veteran that this should have been a walk in the park. Turns out to be not so much of that. So yeah, I mean, this was a slowish first round until about halfway when Javid ended up dropping Johnny. I mean, Vasquez survives that, going back to not much happening after that, but obviously takes that round. But then, of course, in round two, Vasquez rocks and drops Basharat, and then he keeps the damage going. So it's like, okay, now we're 1-1. And I said that if you compared round one and round two, I thought that Vasquez's drop and round was better than Javid's when it came, like, if you're looking at just those two rounds without the third round, like I was like Vasquez actually like used the drop to his advantage a little bit more than what I thought Basharat did. Like he dropped him and then he didn't really have a game plan if he couldn't just go in there and ground and pound him out. And that's I mean, Johnny Vasquez, a Mexican chin here, even the fact that he even got dropped is a little amazing, but he kind of got dropped. He got his legs up. He started doing what he needed to do, and then it was right back to nothing. So I was like, just off of that, I was like, Vasquez might be a little bit more of value than I was giving him credit, not knowing, anything that he was about coming into the organization. But then I think in the third round, both guys were a little gun shy because of the first two rounds. Javid gets the takedown. He keeps control. Vasquez able to land some good shots towards the end of the round. So kind of almost a little even. Javid winning this fight is not like something that I thought was like super wrong, but I did think that it kind of could almost go either way, because if you really were strictly counting off of damage, I don't think Javid did much in that third round, and Vasquez landed a couple of decent shots, albeit a few, it's a small number of them, but a few at the end of the round. And that made it at least somewhat interesting to me. This guy coming in off the couch, basically, having a decent performance against a guy who's been in the organization for a while.
It happens, and I hate to. I'm trying to talk bad about Basharat in the sense of like, dude, you let a dude on his debut kind of make it look interesting. But I also am rooting for Malcolm Wellmaker to have a really big return. So I'm not trying to say it in a way that like not anybody can have this happen, but like I kind of figured Basharat is the type of dude that a guy on his debut could like look decent against. Wellmaker, I assumed he was going to flatline the dude. It was a bit of a shock that he made it outside the first punch, but Basharat, I knew he had. Brother, he's got 3 rounds with you. You ain't doing nothing, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is it's like, Wellmaker, a little bit of a different story there perhaps, and Basharat winning this fight does not surprise me. I mean, like, that we both picked him to win this fight for the exact reason that we're talking about here, but Johnny Vasquez, I mean, I think that the Vince Morales comparison is very accurate. Actually, I think that there's a lot of similarities there, and Vince has a fun fight style too. Vasquez willing to get in there at least when he's pushed to. That would be the one thing that I would say. Like, I would like to see if he comes back, if they do bring him back, that like he initiates a little bit more, because he did seem to be a little bit waiting for the fight to come to him at times. But overall, I mean, this was definitely a strong showing against a mid guy to begin with. Basharat had the ability to make this like a standout performance, because this could have been a dude that, he just styled on, but then instead we ended up getting a somewhat close fight.
The one last thing that I would like to mention, and this is not really relevant to this fight, but it is about the comparison that I made to Vince Morales. Vince Morales, for the time that he was around, was very active. And then the Bulgarian situation happened, and he came out on Twitter and said he was also approached to throw a fight for $70,000. He has not been booked since. So before that, he had pretty notable matchups with Raul Rosas Jr. and Elijah Smith, who are two touted prospects right now. So the UFC clearly had decent plans for him when he returned to the UFC. Now, since he wanted to run his mouth on Twitter about Bulgarian gate, I don't know if he's coming back, guys. Just saying.
Yeah, well, shout out to Iridium Sports, baby. I mean, there's a whole lot that we still don't know about all of that situation, but of course, the FBI is working day and night to get us answers, as you know. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But either
uh,
way, shout out Gianni. I actually am impressed, and I'd like to see him again.
yeah, I mean, really, I can think at the end of the day, that's basically what I'm getting at, is just that this fight ended up being more than I was expecting it to be. So
Mhm.
for that, I was like thankful.
Fair. Yeah, it wasn't as boring as I said it was, of course, but Basharat is definitely not somebody that makes me want to look forward to his
Oh,
fights. I'll
no,
tell
no,
you.
no, no, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, like, you see the similarities even with Farad, and we'll talk about him, of course, in a little while, but, like, Fareed does those things better and elevates it a little bit more. This is always that the sibling situation. Javid definitely is the weaker of the two.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on to the next one here. And this is a little bit of a discussion, I'm sure. Bruna Brazil versus Ketlin Sosa. Turned out to be a little bit closer of a fight than I was expecting it to be, but this fight was not great.
What I will say is I think we have all been lied to. And if you were lied to by anybody, it's me. I told you guys pretty privilege exists. Bruna Brazil, if I could tell you that there is a prettier woman in the UFC, I'd be a fucking liar. And I can't tell you that that she that she lost this fight, guys. She won this one, in my opinion, all 3 rounds very easily because Ketlin Souza is does nothing. She does nothing, guys. She walks forward, and granted, that is a good aspect to have when you're eating a bunch of shots and you can just zombie your way through them and you go in and unload punches, get on the inside. No, she don't do none of that. She don't do none of that. I'll tell you what she does. There is one thing that she does good, and I don't know if the judges gave her 2 rounds based off of this or what, because she didn't do anything after this. She is good at cutting off the cage. She can cut the cage off like a motherfucker, but she don't know how to do shit with it when she gets to it. Bruna just goes the other way, and then she goes and cuts it off the other way. Bruna goes the other way. She cuts her off that way. She goes the
Well,
other
yeah,
way.
I mean, she cuts the cage off and then also gets her hands on her and then just holds her in place. That was the
It's
big note for sure. Now, granted though, we thought that it was one way, and that's kind of the mindset that you're coming from with this. Upon rewatch, I am very sad to say, and it pains me to say this, but because I thought that this was a robbery myself when I watched it on the watch along. Of course, maybe wasn't paying as close attention. I'm talking to chat and stuff or whatever, but on the rewatch, this was not a robbery. This Sosa took those last 2 rounds with minimal output and a ton of cage cuddles. And the reason that this is the truth is because Brazil let her output just tank in the last 2 rounds. Bruno Brazil in this fight was one way in round one and then a 180 completely different in the last 2 rounds. She stopped putting out any kind of offense at all in those last 2 rounds. It was so bad. Now, this is also coming with the punctuation of all of the cage clinching from Sosa, which she did nothing with. So I'm agreeing with you completely on Sosa not looking great. That's why I thought, if out of my side eye, when I'm, going back and forth watching this fight, I'm like, this is Bruna Brazil's fight. She's obviously the one. She's moving a whole lot. She was getting out of the clinch situations a lot. She was, able to get herself, like you said, circle out the other way. She was definitely able to maneuver herself, but it has to be paired with actual activity. And that's, I said, the problem is that Brazil significantly slowed her own activity in the second. Sosa was the aggressor, even with the neutralizing cage clinching.
Yeah, this one, I definitely understand what you're saying. When it came to round 2 and 3, I'm thinking hard, like, at a punch or a kick that Bruno maybe attempted. It's really hard to think about her actually doing anything, so you're not wrong there, but genuinely speaking, and I know we're gonna have to explain this for the co-main event or whatever it is later, but, or the 3rd fight down, how do you win how do you win, right, if the position that you're scoring is the position that you're scoring that is winning you the fight has been broken up 2 to 3 times because you haven't been doing anything with the position. How are you winning with those scenarios? Like I'm
That's
confused.
No, I agree. I mean, and this is why this is why it pains me to say that she won it. The reason that you have to give it to her is because it's the only thing that there was. And you made a point. This is something I go back to several times now, and have gone back to a number of times. Is that what you said is that there should be some type of scoring for negating neutralization. You know what I mean? If all you're doing is holding a person on the cage, this goes back to Mario Bautista and Jose Aldo. Like, if all you are doing is holding a person in place and they break out of that, then there should be some type of at least an equal scoring of some sort for both people. Maybe if you want to go that route, I guess. But like, I think that there needs to be some type of metric to say that you got out of what that other person was attempting to do, because they didn't do it. They didn't do anything with it. And that is this fight to a T. Sosa gets all of the boost of the judging here because she was holding her in place. She finally did get a little bit more active in the clinch in the 3rd round, which I think is maybe something that you could say, again, minimal, my guy. I know. Dude, bro, it's none of this is like me, like really like putting praise on. I'm saying just as basic facts. But again, this also goes back to Brazil not doing enough herself. And it's like, this could have been so different for Bruna Brazil had she just done anything in those last 2 rounds, because it would have been so easy to say, there's your thing. There's your thing. Just 2 shots could have made this whole fight different.
No, I definitely agree with you. She wasn't doing jack shit, but looking real good. And listen,
You're a fan, huh?
I'm a big fan of Bruna Brazil now, guys. I can't believe they had her in the road to the UFC or whatever. You're hiding her off in China or whatever. Bring her back to the apex, brother. Like, get her back on my screen, and don't give her somebody that's going to hold her against the cage next time.
Sure.
Give her a BJJ specialist, and I will be very happy to watch. But this one it was unfortunate to see because, yeah, I would love to see Bruna Brazil win this one, but like, damn, 11-6, girl. Like, fuck, like, Jesus Christ.
No, dude, I mean, it was so bad compared to what she was doing in the first round. Like, I was like, if she had done even a half or a quarter of the output that she had in the first round, because the first round was clearly hers. Like, she took that very easily based on the activity. Because, like I said, I had it in the notes, clinch broken up all 3 rounds. There was a clinch break in every round of this fight, and 2 in the third. There were 4 clinch breaks in this fight. So that being said, if she had done a tenth of the stuff that she was doing in that first round, it would have been a walk in the park for her, because you could always point to those as the punctuations, but she just didn't. And I really thought, again, I praised Senko earlier, I'll praise her again right here. Well, on Sosa's side, Sosa had no game plan whatsoever for the clinching. She literally was holding her in place, and then in her mind, like, what's the next thing now? And did not have an answer for that. So it's like, this was just a sloppy kind of situation all across the board as far as how like all this stuff sort of went down. There was also one other little weird thing I wanted to mention, which was when on the last clinch break, Brazil allows Sosa to adjust her shorts. Like, Paul Felder made kind of a thing about that, where like they broke off, and then Bruno was like, excuse me, Sosa was like, hey, hold on a second, and she's kind of like adjusting her shorts, and then Bruno was just letting her do it. Felder was like, kick her in the fucking face. I was like, that could have made the exact difference I'm talking about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, mom. I remember seeing that, but The thing that sticks out to me, and Hydra just brought it up, I love how she fell off so hard. The UFC stopped including her in the Fighting Nerds graphics and their combined records. It's not even about all that. It's the fact that she is a fighting nerd and she sucks. Like, have I not been telling you guys the fighting nerds are falling off? Like, as we speak, every single time that you think that they're having their big monumental comeback, this is the fight that's going to get them back on the map. You're going to believe that the only ones protest. The only ones protest. We'll talk about another fighting nerd here in a little
I was
bit
gonna
who,
say, yeah.
but the image is slowly fading away for the fear that these guys can strike just by training any of these fighters. They can find some guy out in Poland and trade him, and for but the split moment you think that they got him. They know everything, and then here we are once again. We're back in the
But
position with Bruno Brazil.
I think the thing though is that like Brazil was never part of like the mystique of the fighting nerds. You know what I mean? Like because when he's saying that they stopped including her, they never really included her to begin with. For the longest time, I don't think anybody really even knew that she was a fighting nerd. You know what I mean? Like it kind of had to come out over time. Like they were not including her in the the undefeated metric that they were putting out there when the fighting nerds were all undefeated or whatever. So like I think that they were kind of intentionally backseating her to an extent. And yeah, you kind of see why. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put this all on the nerds specifically because when she was striking in the first round, it was better than Sosa's was. I just don't think that Bruna Brazil is necessarily the greatest fighter to begin with, and she just happens to be with the fighting nerds. You know what I mean?
I think the unfortunate part is, and like I said, they shipped her off to Road to the UFC. Guys, she has a current win over Shi Ming. What did they do? Like, why?
Hurts my heart, dude. Dr. Sleep getting beaten by Bruna Brazil on a card that none of us got to see. And then we come back with Bruna Brazil here, and this is what we do get to see.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to them for knowing that this is not a pay-per-view worthy fight. I mean, Jesus Christ, if this had Apex written all over it, I mean, I would actually root for a lower tiered venue for these people to fight. I mean, you could have no fans, nothing else going on. I mean,
You just have
they
this
don't
on the
deserve
prelims.
shit.
You have this on the prelims of the contender series, you know?
Yeah, like Jesus fucking Christ. Send them back to Road to the UFC after this one, basically. Jesus.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, really, I got lucky with the pick on this one because I did think that it was a little bit of a coin flip as far as, knowing that neither of these women are particularly standout fighters. But again, it really was by pure luck because Sosa is so not it. Like,
Mhm.
she's just another one that, like, dude, when she is on the card, it's like, she'll defy the logic that you see the tattoos, you think that she's going to come out here and just give all of this gritty performance, and then she just defies that completely. I really don't need to see her fight more. It's like I hate to say that it's not personal to her, but like between what we saw in this fight, this really was a clear indicator that she just doesn't have much to offer at the UFC level, in my opinion.
True, I definitely agree. And if she was a bantamweight, honestly, I would say, okay, maybe she has a chance. Any fighting style that can win fights at bantamweight, sure. Strawweight though, I mean, no. I mean, you're just not gonna have the skills to keep up. I mean, you can do it right now against Bruno Brazil, but once you get to a certain level, you're gonna get humbled really, really quickly, and then you're gonna have so many things that you're gonna have to go work on. It's because none of the things that you had worked. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, absolutely. So either way, I mean, this fight kind of was what it was. Again, in the moment, kind of not seeing necessarily every single element of what into it, but I did think that Bruno Brazil won in the moment, so that you can understand the perception there. If that is my perception, with all of the circumstances being as they were, then there are major improvements that are needed on both sides of this fight, and I just don't know if we're going to get it. So whatever.
I think Bruna's done. I'm not gonna lie.
You think so?
I think
11 and 6, 11, 6 and 1.
11-6 is crazy. I know her UFC record. Oh, Candy Cane. Yeah, never mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
just I don't know. I mean, obviously, she won her last fight, Road to the UFC. I guess there's some merit there that you can't cut her because she's 1-1 in her last two. But I don't know. 11-6 is pretty crazy, guys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see what they end up doing with her, but this fight was certainly a thing that happened.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about another thing that happened. It's a little bit more interesting, I suppose. This is Nikolai Veretennikov versus Nico Price. I said, damn you, Nico. Veretennikov sucks on the ground. Grappling is the only thing that you are good at, and you choose to strike with this man. Two of my parlays busted because Nico Price did not have the good sense to level change.
I hate to say that I was so spot on with this. The first fight
Yeah.
I ever saw of Nico Price. One more time, I'll tell you the story. Robbie Lawler's retirement. Walks in, dirty boxing, clinch, right uppercut, just drops him, folds him like a lawn chair. Now, in this fight, it didn't necessarily happen like that, but you could tell that Veretennikov was here to finish a fight early. And Nico Price, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. What can you even say? I mean, he gets punched 3 times and his body just decides to quit on him. I mean, it sucks because like you see the fight, you're watching it and you're like, "Oh yeah, he's done. Just end the fight. Just end it." He's not even there. He's not even attempting. And then he's like all wobbly and the ref stops it and then he's like, I'm good. Like I'm good. It's like, Jesus, you are so not good. Like that's how bad it was is because you don't even know how bad it was and you were still on your feet and you just weren't there, brother. Like it was easy, quick for Veretennikov, and Nico Price could not have looked more washed, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And again, going back to my initial point, like obviously the combo that did the trick for Veretennikov was very impressive. It was the right hand, the knee, the elbow, and then the three piece. I was like, that's a solid combo that he landed there. So good job on that. But bringing it back to the original point, Veretennikov lands a heavy low kick to start this thing, like a lot of mustard on it. And it's like, okay, you're seeing that this guy is he's putting all of his power out early. Then he lands like a hook of some sort. You know, he lands a hand up top. And that should have been the moment where Nico Price realized that he was not standing with this guy. Like, why are you like you already felt the power? You felt it both, both areas now. You felt
Right.
it low, you felt it high. You are only good on the ground. That is really where your strength lies. What possessed you to think that this was going to be the game plan? I do not know. That really was kind of like where I lie with like all of the criticism with Nico on this, because it's like it would have been one thing if the combo that landed, that did everything, that ended the fight, was the first thing that happened in the fight, but you felt the power earlier and you still chose to go into the fire. It's like I can't be sad for you, brother. You chose this route. And then just to touch on what you had already mentioned with Nico, yeah, Nico being a state of suspended animation is what I had said, where he's got his hand on the cage and he's just being pummeled, then fight gets stopped and he has the nerve to complain about the stoppage to someone outside of the cage. You know, he was like he's holding himself up and then he comes to finally and he's just like talking. That really was like, you can see what I'm doing here. He's like he comes to and he's like, bro, I'm not even out. Like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
Like, he like looks off to the side of the cage. It's like, dude, I mean, that right there should tell you that you are not okay, my guy. You woke up into an ended fight. So this was a really terrible performance for Nico Price. He probably is also on the chopping block, I would think, at this point. I don't think there's really too much more that you can do aside from having him take these kinds of fights and having this kind of an outcome. But this sadly to me also is another performance that will lead you to believe that Veretennikov is actually really good. I will admit that he is powerful, but just take him down like Vanderford did. Why? This was an easy potential path to victory. I'm not saying it would have worked necessarily, but he's had two guys now, him and the Argentinian, that both of them did not have success in this one area that Austin Vanderford, a guy coming in from Bellator, showed you the blueprint of
On his debut.
on his debut. So this is what I'm saying. Like I the same with Moon Gaffarov, guys. If you can think that Veretennikov is powerful, and I will admit that he is, but don't let this lead you to believe that there are not weaknesses to his game. If he goes up against an actual wrestler grappler, this could be a very different fight.
I find interesting again, this has nothing to do with the fight itself. I mean, kind of, but I find it interesting how long some of these fights last that I remember being just like in an instance. I mean, to be fair, he made it a minute and 42 seconds before getting starched out on his feet. I mean, in literally one sequence. It's not like he beat him up for a minute and then finally finished him. It's like, no, he waited about a minute and 40 and then he just unloaded a mean combination on you. So you had a minute and 40 seconds to shoot a takedown, Nico. I mean, I don't know what happened here, brother.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And it really, really steams me because all I needed for one parlay to hit was one takedown from Nico Price. That was all it would have taken, bro. And I wasn't even mad about losing it, having him to win the fight. That was a moon shooter. I had one little small like offshoot parlay to be like, all right, we'll throw him a bone. I parlayed him with Wickwatch, and then Wickwatch won. I was like, okay, this could actually hit.
Yeah.
It's like that. Whatever. I'm not mad about that one. That was always a long shot, but one takedown, bro. come on, Nico, it's time to pack it up, my guy. He's a Florida guy too, so you know that I would like to be riding with him, but I can't.
Yeah, I definitely I wish there was more to say, but I'm telling you, he finished him as quick as he walked down to the fucking cage. Shout out
Well, I mean,
Veronica, you
I
know?
I think that what I would ask then is that like I mean, how I've kind of said how I feel about Veretennikov. You and me have talked about him plenty at this point between his other fights. I mean, do you think that this changes your perception of him?
Nope, brother is 14-7 and went up against a dude who got knocked out on a guy's retirement fight. I mean, this guy again, Hydra even said it, Nico in this current state might have the worst chin I've ever seen. I mean, it's not as bad as like Paul Craig, maybe. I don't know. Like that's somebody who I would say, like, oh, I mean, I don't know.
A
But
guy
either
who's
way,
retired?
a guy who's retired. Yeah. So Nico Prices probably need to be hanging it up too.
It's really, I think, at the end of the day, and I hate to say that, I'm not out here trying to tell like guys, not to continue pursuing their dreams and all of these kinds of things, but when you recognize it, you recognize it. And now at 16-10,
Hmm.
I think that it's, I don't, you, you decide, but I'm just,
True.
that's how I feel about it. All right, well, let's round out these prelims here with what I thought potentially could have been fight of the night. I was surprised with who they ended up giving this to, but with the fight of the night, that is. But this is Alex Morono versus Daniil Donchenko. Pretty action packed, all things considered, even if it was slightly one sided for the majority of it.
Yeah, no, this was about as one-sided as it got. I mean, this was a blank canvas type of fight for Danilo. I mean, you got to just see all of what he was willing to do to try to win a fight. Now, he did not go ahead and finish the fight, but he did win a fight very convincingly. He did just about everything you wanted somebody to do. I mean, because when you think of somebody who's young, not he's 14-2, not necessarily the most experienced when it comes to being in the UFC, of course, but when you see somebody walk out and you do it all the time. As a spectator at home, you watch the dude walk out and you say, "That guy's got a fucking knee wrap on." Like, are you kidding me right now? You're gonna tell me he's gonna win a fight with a bum knee? And then when you see Daniil walk out and just blast 5 leg kicks right off the bat, it's like that's exactly what I'm talking about. If Chris Weidman comes back in the fucking organization, you are Brad Tavares and you kick the living shit out of his leg. That's the
This
shit that I'm talking about.
This guy Daniil saw the knee brace was black, right? That it was the material was black. He saw this black bar on this man's knee and said, "That is my target."
Yeah.
He attacked that thing so relentlessly. I was like, exactly what you're talking. I think I even said it on the watch along. I'm like, Chase is loving this right now because this is something that you've talked about, and I agree with you entirely. If you're coming into the fight compromised, you chose to take this fight. You have to fight. This is exactly, the circumstances are exactly as they are going to be regardless. So this was the right call on Daniil's side there. I do take a little bit of issue though, saying that this was as one-sided as it gets, because Morono did land a couple of little things here and there. I mean, now it wasn't sustained. And Morono, I think with the note that I had last week, I think definitely proved to be true, is that Morono, the speed is just gone for this guy, plus a bum knee. So it's like, you already got a guy who's a little bit later in the game. He's a little bit slower to begin with. Now you got a knee compromise. You got an attacked compromised knee with what Daniil was doing to him. There was no movement that was going to be coming out of this guy. But why I like Alex Morono, and I've always been a fan of him, is that he really is a dude who will stay in the fight until he is absolutely just lifeless. He will not quit on himself or in the fight. Like Paul Felder at the end of the fight was saying, "Oh, go balls to the wall and get a moral victory." I'm like, brother, the fact that he is still in this fight at the time you were saying this is the moral victory already. Like, he is a never quit kind of guy. I wish that his physicality could live up to that and match that at this point, which it sadly does not. But I still got to give him a lot of credit. He landed, after getting dropped in the first round, looking like this fight could have been finished. He got up and landed a spinning back fist that actually had Daniil a little bit, just a little bit shook. Not, no crazy stunner shot or anything, but enough to be like, got his attention, like, oh, shoot. So I was like, there you go. This is why I like this guy, even in defeat.
What I want to say, and I'm surprised you haven't brought this up yet. If you think back to when Daniil was on The Ultimate Fighter and he was going against Matt Dixon, the fight abruptly got stopped because of the back of the head shots from Daniil. Now, if you remember in his UFC debut or the Ultimate finale, whatever you want to say, against Rodrigo, whatever his name is, he also had some illegal strikes that he ended up getting in that fight, I believe. And it was always like, what are you doing there? This fight right here, he also was hitting the back of Morono's head right when they got to the ground. And I was sitting here thinking, like, that there it is again. Like, that's kind of crazy that like you just happen to be punching people in the back of the head so frequently,
Oh,
like,
dude. Well, yeah, you beat me to it because yes, that was absolutely going to be the next talking point from me is that 5 elbows and a punch to the back of the head, square on the target too. I had this very clearly in the notes. I said not
mm,
the side of the head. These were back of the head shots. If you look at the replay of it, this is there no two ways about it because it's like how that is where it's like if it's close enough to the side, you're like, oh, am I being a little hypercritical? It's no. These were back of the head shots, and what I said about that is that unfortunately, Donchenko, and he's a guy that I like. I mean, I wanted him to win the Ultimate Fighter, and I'm glad that he did. He's got a good personality. He's a good kid. He's a young guy too, so it's like he's still got a long way to go. But he is gaining a reputation and showing a pattern of being a dirty fighter, and he really needs to get this in check now because this is going to be something that will carry through and be the narrative that is going to be coming up over and over because it's already coming up over and over.
yeah, and it's not like he's getting, knocked for it. It's not like the judges or the reffing is, he's not getting points taken. He's not getting hard warnings yet, but it's still something that he hasn't scraped out of his game plan yet. I mean, obviously it's fighting, things happen, but 5 unanswered shots to the back end. 1, okay, he obviously turned his head or whatever, and you were, landing the shot. But 5 shots is pretty crazy. Switching up to an elbow and then a punch, pretty crazy to get both of those in there while the dude's head is, buried into the mat kind of deal.
Yeah,
But
well, and this is Keith Peterson who was reffing this one. He has to be one of the worst when it comes to back of the head shots, man. It really all these referees, and I'm the one that tries to give them leeway. I want to give them, I know it's a tough job, but when it comes specifically to back of the head shots, if you recall, Keith Peterson was also the Oliveira versus Michael Chandler fight, and we know what happened there. So and pairing all of that when it comes to this fight with the fact that Keith Peterson gave Donchenko a warning early in the fight, a preemptive warning for leading with his fingers.
hmm.
So it's like you're gonna warn him over a finger lead that hasn't actually amounted to anything yet, but you're not gonna call the multiple back of the head shots. It's just it's make it make sense kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I what I would like to say though is I remember about halfway through the fight, maybe it was the third round, they showed the striking totals for Danilo Doncheco. Brother, he was mixing everything in there, like he genuinely is a really good striker. And he does have this tenacity that he's just in there to fight. He's kind of listen, when it comes to Robert Valentine being this dude's training partner at times, he's got that warrior spirit kind of deal. He kind of gives you the Yuri vibes at the end of the his post fights. Oh my goodness, I lost thinker one more time.
Uh,
At the Yes.
there you
So
are.
Danil in his post-fight speech, he was a little upset, a little down on himself. He wanted a better performance. He knows he could do better than this. Against somebody like Alex Morono, rightfully people are talking about how tough this guy is. I don't think this is something that Daniil should hang his hat on. Obviously, yes, want better. You should be able to finish this guy, on his way out of the organization, you're on the way in. But genuinely speaking, you did just about everything, bro. You tried to break his fucking leg off of him. He didn't want to quit. That's hats off to him, but you were inflicting the most damage that was going to continue to happen to him. So I give you props to not giving up on a game plan. I mean, you know, we'll talk about another fight here in a little bit, but it's like, certain game plans, it's like in your mind, it's like eventually they gotta quit. Like, when it comes to body shots, it's like eventually they gotta fall. But like sometimes people just don't, like it's not necessarily anything that you can do, especially if you're not like a one hitter power puncher that you can just knock everybody's lights off. There's game plans, there's ways for you to win the fight. I think Danilo had it 30-26 for 2 judges. I mean, this dude whooped ass. So shout out to him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that this was a very solid performance amongst many now that we're seeing out of him. I think that he's got a lot of potential in this sport for sure, especially at his age. So,
Yes.
what I said is that this is also a data collecting kind of experience when it comes to him specifically, because we did see now having to go a little bit later in the fight. He definitely started to gas a little bit in the third, which is understandable considering how much energy he put into those first 2 rounds. So, there's like elements that need to be fixed. We talked about him with his dirtiness. He really needs to get that in check earlier than later, I would say, and also should be dinged for it, but that's not his fault. Either way, like there are just like these little touch points that like you can say, okay, this is a place to improve. This is a place to improve. But overall, very, very solid performance. Exactly really the performance I expected out of him against a guy who is as tough as Morono is. So like that being the way that it ended, yeah, it would have been nice if he had finished this fight, especially considering that his opponent was compromised. But at the end of the day, it's basically what you're saying is that, really this was a very solid performance. He himself, said how tough Morono is, and, knowing that this guy is like, has the reputation of toughness that he comes into this fight with and all the experience that he has. This was a solid win. Make the adjustments that you need to. Please stop being so dirty and come back and continue doing what you are doing, because you're already on a good trajectory. And like I said, because of Morono's toughness and the stuff that he was able to do, I would have given this fight of the night personally. This was the one I thought deserved it, but they gave it to a different fight we'll talk about in a minute.
And to note, we have two Ukrainian welterweights that are taking over the division right now. One of them is probably ranked right now, and the other one is maybe 2 fights away from being ranked. So keep that in mind, everybody.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I believe that they might be training partners. I
They are.
think, yeah. So I mean, that we'll see if that comes back to bite us in any way in the future. We've certainly seen issues with training partners and not wanting to fight and all of those kinds of things. So we'll see. But yes, shout out to Ukraine. Shout out to Daniil. Good job on this fight.
Oh yeah.
All right, next up. Okay, so this is one that needs a little bit of discussion here. This is Dustin Jacoby versus Julius Walker. Now, before we get into the actual fight itself, I will say the note that I have, this is Dan Mergliotta, the referee. Dan Mergliotta, you probably heard his name a couple of times on this very show. Dan Mergliotta, this was his 500th refereeing assignment for the UFC. I said, what a way to celebrate that achievement. Plus, these two are friends and former training partners. And you really had Dustin Jacoby go out there and almost murder his friend.
Yeah, this one was a very interesting one because while at first it did seem like it was going to be a slug one, it was going to be a sluggy fight the way it started out. Julius Walker is he's very timid, he's very controlled, he's looking for that right shot. He doesn't have the ability to just throw his hands out there and let them fly. um and Dustin Jacoby, again, I brought up earlier, this I find out, I did not know this, he is a former opponent of Alex Pereira in Glory. and
Yeah, that's crazy. I did not know that either, actually. That's awesome.
and so when I found that out, I said, "Damn, his striking does make a lot more sense. This dude probably has been doing it for a really fucking long time, and he is a very good striker. And I obviously know that he's got very good hands. He's got the ability to knock people out. I was expecting Julius Walker to have a little more success with the takedowns. Now, granted, he did exactly what he needed to do. He found out that he could not strike with this dude, so he started shooting. He shot for his life, and he just couldn't keep him down, unfortunately. He even, it wasn't even like he was doing the same thing over and over. He got him, picked him up, dropped him in his corner. Jacoby got up. Okay, he gets him down again, jumps on his back. He gets up again. He was trying a lot of different things in quick succession. Unfortunately, it probably wasn't going to sustain through the entire fight. Like, even after the first round, he got up off the ground, and it's like, yeah, you just tried to wrestle for the whole round, dude. Like, now you got a striker in front of you who's like ready to go. And it didn't look great, but I thought the idea from Julius Walker, like, at least he didn't try to stand with him and just get starched. He tried to implement the game plan that was going to work. This is what the coach set up for him. This is how we can beat him. Unfortunately, Dustin Jacoby has a lot better takedown defense, and get up ability. And then when you get back to the feet, he's able to just let his hands fucking go. And Julius Walker, he's a little chinny, guys. I mean, listen, these were clean shots from Dustin Jacoby, and a light heavyweight throwing a punch who can actually throw a fast, technical, precise punch. I mean, yeah, it's going to do some damage. But Julius Walker, I mean, the first punch it was already had him on the ropes. He starts flying across the cage. He's all loopy, and then a second one catches him, and then you get some uppercuts, and then he gets dropped, right? And then Dustin Jacoby walks away, like, hands up in the air, having a good time, and Dan's like, "No, no, it's good," because this is what the part is. Dan actually steps in. So this is what pisses me off, because we've said this before. If you make contact with the fighter, you gotta do something. Like, you can't just step in, because it wasn't even like he like put his hand on him. He actually like tripped, bro. He like put his foot in the way, and then Dustin Jacoby like trips on him, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? So anyway,
Oh,
Jacoby walks away, and then Julius Walker is fucking on his knees, praying for fucking the fight to be over, and then just gets caught with a fucking uppercut. Like, yeah, and then the whole sequence continues after that. But anyway, yes, go ahead. This was absolutely madness.
Oh yeah, no, no. So I mean, yeah, I've got all of the the stuff with the finish, of course. Yeah, let me talk through that. But really, I mean, the only note that I wanted to say before any of that was that I thought that basically what you outlined is correct. This the smacks of the same basic framework of what we were talking about with Moira and Wang Tong, where it's like the game plan was what it probably should have been for Walker. You know, I thought decent success in the first round. You know, pick up and drops, good control. I thought that he took that first round based on all of that. Dustin Jacoby wasn't able to get his striking off as early, but you always know that it's going to start on the feet. So that threat is always there. In the round two, of course, we end up getting that. But yes, out the gate, round two, Dustin blasts Julius, and then the shenanigans begin. So, right, Walker goes down heavy. Dan slides in, risky business style. Dude was pulling the Tom Cruise in Risky Business, if you know the film. Dustin thinks that Dan's going to wave this thing off because he literally just, just surfed his way in. But no, no. I mean, well, then Dan, if you're not going to do that, why are you that close? You're on top of them. Brother, like this is not rocket science as to why Dustin Jacoby did what he did, and it would have been okay to have stopped the fight at that time. That's the other thing that really boggles my mind. This would not have been a bad stoppage or one anybody would have disputed. Really, I mean, like you can always go back to the ISO cam and the slow motion and be like, oh man, well that looks early now. But in the moment, if he had stopped it right then and there, I think that everybody would have been pretty okay with it based on the way that Walker went down. But he doesn't wave it off, so Jacoby has to butcher Walker while he's in the twilight zone. So Walker ends up panic wrestling. Dustin lands some more solid elbows to the side of the head. He goes down again, and then finally, mercifully, Dan steps in and stops this thing. I said, congratulations on 500 fights, Ref Dan. Now please fucking retire. Get out of here with this shit, dude, because we know you're deaf already, and things like this do not bode well for anyone. No one should be scared to be in the cage with you.
I definitely agree, but no, what I think what is absolutely the funniest part, like I said, so right when Dan slides in there, Jacoby kind of walks away. Julius Walker's on his knees begging to be the fight to be over basically, and Mergliata just he's like, no, carry on, carry on. So when the camera switches, you actually get a shot where Mergliata's in the way, like you can't see Julius Walker behind you. You see Mergliata just kind of covering the screen, and then you see Justin Jacoby just laid fucking Julius Walker out, and then you see him fly over, and it's like, oh my fucking god, like why would you not end the fight right
Well,
there, bro?
and you saw Dustin Jacoby after the initial lack of contact
Yeah.
or whatever, the initial slide in, you saw him look at Big Dan with the hands up like, bro, are you kidding me right now? Like, you're really gonna make me keep doing this? It's like, yeah, we all kind of felt that way. And they even said on commentary, of course, these guys, somewhat friendly, not necessarily best friends, but friendly. They were former training partners at some point. So it's like, we not only am I like having to go in and put unnecessary damage on a person, but a person who I know, like, dude, like, just stop the fight. Like, this was okay. It would have been perfectly fine. You are making this something worse than it had to have been.
Yeah, no, this was a very good finish from Jacoby. I was not necessarily, I'm not mad at Julius Walker. I'm not disappointed. I'm just under the understanding that he don't have a chin, man. He genuinely got hit, and it didn't look, he didn't have, his body didn't do the right instinctual things for the fight to continue on. It is just in panic flop mode, and the ref obviously has his discretion to step in at that point. He wanted to, let you go on a little longer. We always have the argument, let him fight through it. He would have fought through it. Julius Walker, unfortunately, was not going to fight through that shit.
Right.
He was done, and we got to actually see what that was like. Unfortunately, so
Yeah.
I did not love the stop, did not love the performance from Julius. But again, at the end of the day, I think you tried your best opportunity. In some world, you held him down the entire first round, or you subbed him in the first round. I don't know. So
Yeah, exactly. Like if they fight, 100 times, that works one time. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it just wasn't this fight. So it makes sense. The game plan was what it was. Really, the emphasis on all of this has to be on Big Dan. And shout out to Hydra always, but I gotta at least read this one because this really made me laugh. Dan picked the right answer on a multiple choice test, then erased it and picked the joke answer meant to make it easier. It's like that really does track pretty well when it comes to the description of how this all played out. So, yeah, again, this is the ugly, I guess, the wacky, I guess you could say, in the sport or whatever. But I just hate the fact that it comes at the expense of Julius Walker. I mean, like, we can meme on it and we can laugh about it here, but this guy did not have to take 5, 6, 10 extra strikes, in this fight where it could have just been an easy out, and him just kind of licking his wounds and going away. This would have been perfectly fine without all of this. And, we got to be conscious of that when we're talking these things through. This is a human being that we're talking about. So.
Julius Walker also did come out on Twitter and, he said, I'm fine, I don't have a concussion, I don't have any like, injuries kind of deal. But the funny thing that he did say, he was like, I did roll my ankle though. I don't know when that happened, probably when I was unconscious, like so.
Yeah, any of the 30 seconds worth of disassociation that you that you were
Yeah.
in an alternate plane of existence. Yeah. Well, shout out to Julius Walker for being a good sport about it. But really, again, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier in the stream about, the just the need for a bigger variety of people with better training to be doing this job. Like Dan Murgliata has had 500 fights in the organization now and is still having these kinds of things happen. We need more people.
Yeah, 100%.
So
this comment here, Dan isn't a human, he's a troglodyte.
hey, yikes! Well, that's certainly strong and pointed language, but I mean, at least in this instance, it's hard to disagree to a full extent. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily would go that far, but I would say a whole bunch about his hearing. We've talked about that.
Hell yeah.
All right, whatever on all that. But yeah, shout out to Dustin Jacoby. Actually, I guess the last thing I did want to ask is, do you think that Dustin Jacoby is going to be on the White House card / do you think that Dustin Jacoby is going to play golf with the president?
I always find this so funny because Donald Trump, again, I've pointed this out to you guys many different times. Donald Trump is one of the biggest casuals ever. He shows up to one main card every blue fucking moon, and everybody thinks he's the biggest fan of the UFC ever. He likes Derek Lewis, sure. Doesn't even like Colby Covington anymore. I can promise you, he doesn't even know who Dustin Jacoby is. And, I hate to break it to you, Dustin. I don't think he goes golfing with just anybody these days. I think you got to be a selected party member. You got to be on a list of some sort to be associated with Donald Trump. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, he certainly was asking for it, so all will be revealed soon, I guess, when it comes to all of that.
I can't wait for Donald Trump to come out one day and he's gonna be like, here's the list of everybody that asked to be on the card. Dustin Jacoby, you're on it, buddy. Gotcha.
That's hilarious because that's actually something that he probably would do is be like, look at all these people who wanted to be on the card. They didn't make it, but you guys did.
Yes. That was a pretty good impression.
Thank you. All right. Well, either way, let's move on to the next one here. This was a little bit more of a standard affair, I would say. Not a bad fight, but, kind of compared to all the wackiness we've been talking about, you need a standard fight, I would say. This is Jean Masumoto. I was incorrect earlier. I thought that he went by Jean. It actually is John, just like John Silva. So Jean Masumoto versus Farid Basharat, of course, the brother of Javid.
This fight, once again, with the Basharat Bros, I'm just never going to be excited to see these guys. I mean, I don't listen. This fight wasn't necessarily the worst ever, but I can't tell you there was anything memorable from it. The only thing that I walked away knowing is that Matsumoto is not like he's fine. He's a good, decent Brazilian prospect, but I can name probably 4 other ones that are 10 times the whatever Matsumoto is good. He is good. He can get you a split decision. But when I think of other prospects, Brazilian prospects, like I think there's just better ones out there. And Basharat, again, they just don't speak to me as like the greatest talent ever because they're not leaving me with a lasting effect of what they can do that's going to dominate everybody that's in front of them. When I think of people that are so good, like there are people out there with like Meli Costa, when a Brazilian prospects right here. I know it's a different weight class, but like I can tell you, there's so many different things that dude can do that he's proven that he's skilled at. But when it comes to Basharat, it's like I've not been. He's not proven to me that I need to be aware of his game. Like I can keep writing off this 15-0 dude. Like sure, a bullet, 18-0 or whatever. You watch him, it's like there's something about the striking. Like you can tell, like, okay, 18 people definitely lost to that level of a striker kind of deal. Basharat, though, it's like 15 people lost to this dude. Like, they gotta be nobodies for real. Like, Jesus Christ. If this dude got a split and he's not even the fourth best Brazilian bantamweight we got right now, I don't know. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with the basic sentiment. That's kind of why I framed it the way that I did. Like both of these guys are solid fighters. You know what I mean? I think that Farid had a very well rounded and well utilized performance here. Like his skill set was applied very evenly in all areas, and it worked in negating all the things that John wanted to do. So it was essentially dominant. This was a split decision fight. I thought it was pretty clear personally after, especially on rewatch, but
for Basharat,
for Bashra, yeah,
okay.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And but I mean, like, so. But that being said, it's like okay, if it's close enough in people's eyes, then it even proves my point even more. Is that like I think that both of these guys come in with a solid core skill set that is, like you said, it's good. It is like these are good fighters. These are not people that you would say that these are slouches by any stretch. It's not. It's just like it's not inspiring, I guess. It's not inspired in a lot of ways because really, what I said about Masamoto in this fight is that he really didn't seem like he could find his rhythm. Like that there was a lot of times like you know I always talk about being first, you know, getting yourself into the flow state early because that's going to carry you through the fight. I think that is where Masamoto floundered in this fight, is that he wasn't able to find that early rhythm. Basharat was just able to move very well. He was able to keep his hands on him. It just felt like Masamoto was outmatched in a lot of this fight. And he had a couple of moments here and there of some decent striking because he is a good striker, but it needs to be more. I said the one time that Gene Masamoto had striking momentum in the third round, Farid got the takedown and negated it instantly. And that kind of is a general note for a lot of this, is that anytime that Masamoto was starting to have a little bit of momentum, Farid just had you know, an answer for it. He always had an answer. And the thing that kind of goes to what you were saying is like only having the answer to negate other things, that's not enough to inspire someone to be like that guy is great, because you need to take the reins. It's not like you can't just always being reacting and then that win. I mean, it will win you the fight. It won you this fight, but like it's not like what you want to see as like a dominant fighter. Like you want to see him being the aggressor, being the person who's going to make the action happen, as opposed to I have the answer for everything you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it's just unfortunate. I think Basharat goes through this same kind of thing when you if you think of the flyweight Rafael Estevam, that dude's undefeated, I think still. Maybe not still, but like if you there's just nothing that makes you remember what they do that is so good. Maybe they have size, maybe they have athleticism, maybe they have this, but like what are they doing in the cage that makes me remember? That's what that Basharat bro's about. Like that's what he can do. All I remember him and his brother are not very good. Like, you know, like, and I hate to be that way because, like, you know, it would be different if I could be like, damn, that one brother is like really fucking good, and the other one's like not very good. But like, they're both similar in skill set, and the other one I already know got knocked out by Ricky Simone. So like the fact that I can barely tell which one is that one, like, you know, like that's the worst part.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, and you're also not alone in that sentiment, because this was the first major instance on the broadcast where the new expanded apex came into the equation. Because when Farid Basharat was on the microphone, you could hear just how angry the crowd was with him winning this decision. Now, again, I thought he won this pretty handily personally, so maybe I need to go through it with a fine tooth comb or whatever. Maybe it's Brazilians in the crowd that are, you know, a little bit biased, whatever the reason was. That's besides the point. The point is that when he was on the microphone, you could hear very, very clearly that crowd was not happy with this decision, and they were letting him know in a big way.
I think I've talked a lot about him and his brother, and I think it would make you guys assume that I'm biased towards them and I just don't like them. I'm never going to, but I will say this, and you reminded me because his post fight speech, you are right. He got booed immediately that they gave him the mic, and I actually think he had a very good response to that. Like, yo, you can feel however you want to feel about it, but like, come on, like. Give us our. We had a fight. I didn't pick. I didn't pick the fucking winner. Like you know. Like they told you I won. You can be mad, you can boo all you want, but like, come on, have some respect. Let me have my moment here, and fair, shut the
Sure.
fuck up, y'all. Like, damn, let me have my moment, and like you said, it might have been the Brazilians out there, but like, who gives a shit, brother? The judges told you that I won. Now you can't be mad at me because I'm the one who competed against your bro. Like, so
Oh yeah, I mean, and
whatever.
I give him a lot of respect for that. That's the same reason why we're going to talk about the main event coming up.
Mhm.
I've always said that I am a fan of Mario Bautista, even in defeat, often because I thought that he handled the very vocal backlash after the Jose Aldo fight exactly how he should have. I don't give a fuck what you guys think. I won the fight. You suck my balls. I'm out of here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's really what you should say. It's not, I'm not out here fighting for your approval. I'm out here fighting for my family, fighting for my money, and fighting for the win, and that's what I did. So, your opinions really don't play anything in. I just really brought it up more to say that it was so clearly audible on the broadcast, and that was what was interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's like because you really can't hear it, and we're going to talk about a fight coming up here where it was even more apparent, and I'll explain what I mean when we get to it.
Hell yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it on this one. Like I said, I wish I had more to say, but the lasting effects are that the Bashrap Bros are as about as good as the Bomb Fiend Bros, and John Matsumoto he's a Brazilian prospect. We have a lot of those.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely right about that aspect of it. I mean, I want to believe that there is still some room for improvement for Masamoto. I think he can get better. I still see the same things in him that I saw in him early that like is like unmolded clay kind of thing, but like you got to start molding that clay. And I mean, he was only 17-2, so there's still plenty of time for it. But I'm just saying, like, don't let that ratio start to creep up on you because you start getting to 17-5, and then now we're starting to have a different conversation. So
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, his last win was also a split decision. But let me
uh,
just double check on
I
that.
believe it
Yeah,
was Rob Font, right?
his last three have been split decisions. Yeah,
So
so
this is what I'm talking about. I mean, there is room for plenty of room for improvement. I do still think that that can happen, but you've got to make those changes because if you're getting all of your wins by split decision and you got the two losses now too, eventually this is going to be a different narrative that we're creating. And I'm not going to be able to say, oh, but he still could. It's like you only get so much time in that window.
yeah, and a perfect. I mean, not a perfect world, I guess, but 17-2 with the last three being split decisions. I mean, you could very well be 14-5. 14-4.
Right.
13-5. You got to make sure, and obviously you have won these fights or the at least one of the split decisions. You lost a split decision to Rob Font, and then now this one he had a split decision win to Miles Johns is the other one. But
True.
if that's the only split decision you're winning is Miles Johns, I hate to break it to you, Rob Font is far from the top level of the division. So I don't know. Like you said, you just gotta be you gotta get more wins here. You gotta get them unanimously, brother. Split decision. The judges are not always gonna give it to you, and when you have a person who is from a region that's not represented more often, they're more inclined to put that dude in the spotlight because that gets more people watching the sport. So I don't know.
True. Yeah, you got to set yourself apart. That is a good point. All right. Well, maybe next time, but fine win for Farad. And in some broad, small way, I would say shout out to Afghanistan because it's like that. If you want to talk about underrepresented regions in this sport, I don't think it gets more underrepresented than that. I think they are literally the only representatives of Afghanistan currently in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next fight here. This is Mikhail Olashechuk versus Marc-Andre Barrio. Of course, this ended up being the fight that got fight of the night. Do you agree with that, Chase?
Um, yes, because it was actually a two-sided affair. If you were arguing this over Daniil and Morono, I mean that was a one-sided occasion. Daniil just whooped him the entire time. This one, you could definitely argue that Marc Andre had a chance. Kind of deal. I mean, he obviously showed exactly what he does every fight. He shows this toughness that he has. I listen. Big fan of Marc Andre, and these are the fights that tell you why. I mean, this dude will come out here and he's not afraid to go against another striker, and he'll go in there and he'll tuck his chin, and he's a very technical striker. He took a lot of body punishment in this fight, and I think that is what's key here. Is Mikel he or Mihal is what they fucking called him in the post fight speech, but Mikel invested a lot in the body, and I actually think again, this is back to what I said earlier. You have a good game plan, and you in your mind, it's like you know at one point they gotta fucking fall. Like, I'm gonna punch you 100 times in the stomach. 99, the 99th time, you gotta fucking fall. No way you make it this far. And Mikhail was doing so much body work. He was loading up on these hooks, and he actually he's getting a little predictable with his striking because obviously he didn't get a first round finish like he was able to in his last couple of performances. So when you watch his striking over 3 rounds, you see that he's getting more predictable. He has this one shot where he loads up the one, he throws it really low, and it's either a body shot or it's up top with the hook. That's all he's got. And then at the end of the second round, his coaches even told him, don't even throw the body shot anymore. Don't throw it anymore. Just don't do it again. And to be fair, that would have been a killer fucking game plan. Go 2 rounds, you rip in the body, and then just never do it again. Just never even attempt it. I mean, you might fake him out. But the problem is Mikhail didn't listen. And again, stubborn human thing. He's obviously expecting, like, dude, I'm gonna punch him so hard in the stomach. He's going to give up eventually. I've already done it so much. But to Marc Andre's credit, this dude is one tough son of a gun. I mean, Mikel punched him for 3 rounds, and at no point did I ever feel that Marc Andre was actually gonna, fall over to it. And that's to credit of the toughness that he has. Again, Mikel has been able to finish a lot of the last opponents that he's had. I even brought up the DraftKings stat. He had 5 first round finishes in a row against southpaw opponents or whatever the fuck it was. Well, I brought up that Marc Andre is not that. And funny enough, he didn't get finished in the first round, nor did he get finished at all. So I'm starting to think, is Mikhail really good at just punching people whose face is really fucking close to his power hand? And as soon as they're not close to him, he's either body shot or a wild hook across the top. I don't know. But Marc Andre's tough, so I'm not going to say that, if it was a different stance situation, he would have finished him. I think Marc Andre he's just the guy that wasn't going to get finished that night. And Mikhail, very good fight, unanimous decision. I don't have a problem with. Like I said, I think his striking gets very predictable. Once we're 3 rounds in, we can see all of the tips and trades of here. So I would hope that there's going to be more to come, but yeesh, I'm not thinking so.
Yeah, I mean, I think I generally agree with most of what you're saying. I think that the thing that makes me like feel the way that I feel about this versus the Donchenko fight is that like Marc Andre, like Sanko at one point had said that she thought that Marc Andre was like scaling for late game. She's like, oh, this has been his plan the whole time, like to like wait it out and then start striking. I'm like, he was not. No, he definitely
Yeah.
was not doing that. But he did adjust well halfway through this fight. But that's also the reason why, like, for the other fight, I mean, and I hate to keep harping on this, like this fight versus that fight thing, but I'm using it as a point to say, like, this fight, like, I think this could have been more a fight of the night had Marc Andre been doing what he was doing later in the fight earlier in the fight. Like if he had started off stronger, like he was just taking so much damage in that first round. Like Mikhail, the one thing that he has paired the striking with is the pressure, because he was pressure heavy this whole fight. He was up in his face for so much of this, really landing those shots. And like you'd said, the shot selection is good. 11 leveling up, whether you want to attribute it all to the fighting nerds, whatever. I said it is very interesting and very cool to see that a guy as late into the game as Olashechuk is, that he has leveled his striking up to where it is at now. But again, pressure heavy. Marc Andre is good off of his back foot, but not in any respect off of based on what Olashechuk was doing. I mean, like if that's what you're paired with, it's going to be very hard to make the moving back and striking off the back foot work for you when the combos were as high as they were for Olashechuk. And I thought that was one of his bigger strengths there. Nice shot selection, steady output, mid-high combos. I was like, this is really nice, Then, and really the funniest thing to me was that like second round, and it was almost exactly halfway through the fight, Barrio takes a kick to the body that like hit like a firecracker. It was like really a loud snap on it. And then it was like he finally woke up and was like, okay, now I actually have to fight. Like I can't stand for this anymore, And I was like, if you had just done that throughout the entirety of this thing, then maybe it would have been a little bit more competitive. And he had his moments towards the end of this fight, but like overall, this really did feel, at least perceptionally, that it was a lot of Olashechuk circling him around, cutting him off, pushing him back, and punch, 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 punch.
I think the most unfortunate part is that while Mikhail had a very good striking outing here, I mean, again, this is against somebody who's going to stand in front of him and just test his toughness. So, granted, you should have a very good striking performance on somebody like that. My thing is Mikhail, second round started, bro was already tired. Now, granted, he got to the third round and he finished strong. and he won the round. But that is partly because Marc Andre was also very tired. I mean, again, you are throwing a lot of punches against a person who's in front of you. You're going to get tired. You're going to gas out. But for Mikhail to be the way that his style is just a very volume heavy striker, at least when he doesn't finish them, from what we're seeing, very volume heavy striking. I would have really liked him to not look disgustingly tired after the first round. And it sucks because like if you're in your wheelhouse, you're doing what like if you're a striker and you're striking, you should be able to do that for a lifetime. Wrestlers, if you're wrestling, you should be able to grapple your life out. If you're a wrestler and you start striking, yeah, you should get tired because it's not in your wheelhouse, other way around. But like if Mikel goes up against somebody at middleweight who was able to, again, he's been around. I think he's been at welterweight, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, when he gets to the position where people are taking him out of his element, he's gonna get tired just like he is when he's striking, and then what? Then his striking's not gonna be anywhere near it needs to be. If we get rounds 2 and 3 of, Mikhail's striking, and that's, like, gonna be the freshest that he's gonna be for the remainder of a 5-round fight or something like that, I mean, it's not looking too good in my opinion. I like the first round finish, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I'm not liking the 3-round decision, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk kinda deal.
Yeah, it'll definitely come to bite him when he gets a guy who's able to keep the cardio going for longer. I also had that in the notes that, they both ended up gassing pretty solidly through the end of this thing. And Olashaychuk did seem to fade a little bit earlier, but thankfully for him, Marc Andre had taken so much damage that it was kind of like evened out, even if Marc Andre was a little bit not fresher, but you know what I mean, like had a little bit more stamina. But yeah, it was definitely noticeable in that third round and noticeable in the post fight too, because he got an interview and he was huffing and puffing through the entire interview too. So there's definitely a little bit of a tank issue when it comes to Olashaychuk, and there are going to be a lot more fresher guys. So I could see that being a problem. It's like you said, if you're going to be Mr. Volume Striker, then you need to pair it with the power early to actually get the knockouts, because you're going to have problems later in the fight. And if you get a guy who's got a thick skull like Marc Andre Barrio, then this is how this ends up.
This guy, Michael Oleksiejczuk, has been in the UFC since 2017.
Yeah.
That is insane to think about. But when you think of a lot of these people, because like, what's next for Mikhail here? You obviously got to start thinking about where does he go from here. But when you look at the list of the people that he's lost to and faced before, I think he has a rematch coming for him. And hear me out,
Mhm.
because a lot of these people are at a different weight class now from him, which is fine. But when you look at somebody like a Cody Brundage. He beat him already, sure, but that's not the one that I'm necessarily thinking about. Kyoba Hayo, he also has a loss to, and that's not the one that I'm thinking about. But again, these are just names that are still relevant around here. Chidi and Jekawani, he beat him already though. But here's the one that I think is key: Michel Pereira. He lost in 2024 to him by submission in first round. Now, granted, Kevin Holland also submitted him in the first round in 2024. So let's not jump our horses here. But I would love to see a rematch between Mikel and Michel Pereira, because that's actually one of the first fights that I believe I saw from Michel Pereira. And I'm like, how the fuck are people not on this dude type train? He kicks him in the body and chokes him out in the first round, whatever you want to say. But let's give Michel some redemption here. Give him a rematch or two. I would love to see it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really what he's been doing for himself with these recent performances, right? He's creating his own redemption. So if that's the case, then yes, go out and reclaim some of those losses. That doesn't. I'm not opposed to that. It is a little close. I mean, 2024 to 2026. I mean, it's not exactly a long time in the past,
But
but
I like the idea that Michelle was right at the top of the pinnacle. He was one fight away. He was in that 5 round against Fluffy, where Mikel is still kind of on his way up now, while Michelle's on his way down. And I
right.
think I think the trajectory, like that finish that Michelle got over Mikel, that's like what sent him rocketing into a new division up until a main event fight. I think Mikel is at that point where it's like, this is perfect payback. Like, I can just get you the fuck out of here. You got me. I'll get you back. I like it.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it if they wanted to do it. I mean, and then we could actually see if that is what ends up happening to Pereira, where it's like, like the make or break, bro. Because I mean, like you've been so wishy washy as far as like what we can expect out of you. Sometimes we're getting fireworks, and sometimes we're getting you huffing for dear life on the floor while you're getting manhandled. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like it. All right. Well, either way, in this fight, this was a fine performance for Olashaychuk. Again, not one that I was as high on as the organization, perhaps, but I still do give him his credit. And like I said, to be, it's like you brought up that here since 2017, for him to be this stage of his career and to have leveled up his striking specifically in this way, I gotta praise that.
And one more shout out to the brothers of the UFC. Mikel does have a brother, Alexei, who is waiting on the cusp to avenge all of his losses. So
Yes.
Kevin Holland, if I just named you out, Michelle Pereira, if I just named you out, Shara Bullet, you guys are all on the hit list of Alexei. And I don't know, I was actually wrong. It wasn't welterweight that he competed at before. It was light heavyweight. So if Alexei wants to
Oh,
go move up and go get avenged losses against Dustin Jacoby and fucking Ovin St. Preux when he gets his ass back in here, anybody can get it. I'm taking Alexei over them all.
I did not remember that he fought at light heavyweight. That's crazy to me. But
Yep.
yeah, he must have been a somewhat undersized light heavyweight, I would suspect. But either way, whatever the case may be, Alexei himself is going to have to put a little bit more work in though, because his last fight was not very great. So go out there and get a little bit more, level up the skills. Maybe he becomes a fighting nerd. Maybe the two of them train nerds together, and he can get like his brother.
Yeah, and shout out Hydra. I'm glad you see the vision there. Big career divergence for both fighters, and then it's reversed momentum to lead to the rematch. I'm telling you, I think it fucking cooks. I in the back of Mikel's mind, he would want that. Like I know I can get that one back. Like it was just that one. And then in Michelle Pereira's mind, he's that fucking arrogant fucking idiot. He's like, I beat him first round already. I'll go backflip on his fucking head again. Whatever you want to say. Like it's been
True.
great.
Yeah. All right. Well, if they want to do it, then hopefully the representatives who listen to this show all the time will take your thoughts into consideration.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've put it off long enough. Let's talk about it. Of course, this is Jailton Almeida versus Rizvan Kuniev. The note that I have to start this was from the very beginning of the fight. This is our commentator, Brendan Fitzgerald, and he said, Rizvan Kuniev has been anxious to get back to action. I'll fight every month if you'll let me, he says. With what we've seen out of you, brother, no, they will not let you. But now he is also ranked sixth in the world at heavyweight. So how do you reconcile that, Chase?
Well, this fight is atrocious. I mean, it's not. And what's bad is when I say that, people are like, "Yeah, man, Kunaev sucks," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, hold on." Like, no, you're missing the point. No, Kunaev actually was the one that was doing anything in this fight. It's not that he made the fight bad. I mean, he had a person that was doing absolutely fucking nothing against him, and not that, and not that it was a bad showcase of skills from Kunaev. It was a lack of skills shown from Gelton Almeida, which we know he has. And what's funny is we know he has the grappling, we know he has the wrestling, and he wasn't even able to get a single leg grabbed on Kunaev, which is absolutely insane. But the fact is that Gelton Almeida had the absolute audacity to look like one of the most competent strikers throwing his hands and then decided to never fucking do it again. There was one moment, I swear to God, he popped a jab, threw a straight, and then dipped under. And I said, holy fuck, he actually knows how to box. And he didn't do that combination ever again. And the whole fight went on with him on the cage, looking at the ref, like putting his hands up. It's like, what are you looking at, brother? Like, oh, I get that the fight got stopped and you got sent back to the middle, whatever you want to do. Gelton Almeida, I truly DC was not lying. And I know it was funny at first because the way he said it, he truthfully meant it. But Gelton Almeida genuinely just does not have the fighter gene. Like I don't know what it is. Like he's not there. Fight or flight, it just doesn't exist. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what I said to that when it came to the striking, because I know exactly the shot combo you're talking about, and I said that Charlton has to be the laziest striker in the organization right now, because obviously, like I've always said, he doesn't have that skill at all. But then you see that he has a little bit of that skill, or at least a fleck of it, if you are choosing not to use it in a fight like this, when what you are getting as your opposition is literal neutralization for 90% of the fight, and you know that you're like, for whatever reason, you're deciding to not do anything in that neutralization to advance yourself. So the only thing you can do is use the striking. then I can only chalk it up to laziness. I mean, like, bro, like where is your mindset with that? And I think that it really goes to your point. Yeah, that the fighter gene might not be there. I mean, this was one long round because of the lack of striking. This was one long round of Kunaev out Almeida-ing Almeida. You know what I mean? Like, he was really beating him at his own game. Clinch, knee, stand at range, do nothing, re-enter the clinch.
Yeah.
It takes two to do the shitbird tango over here. Like, you are in this fight too, Jalton.
Yeah, and shout out Hydro once again. Jailton's striking actually looked fast, but he hates being hit so much he'll land 3 strikes and run away. It's absolutely just astronomical the way that he acts in the cage. Like he acts like so he'll grapple and he'll have a great time and he'll take people down and he'll sit on their chest and he won't submit them. But when he's held up against the cage, it's like, come on, ref, what the fuck's the problem? Like, what are we doing here? And then when we're in the open cage, dude, don't even get me started. There's nothing really else to talk about except the final sequence where Jailton Almeida points to the ground,
Oh,
throws 0 strikes, through 0 strikes. Don't even understand it, bro. It's just bad. This fight, I was sitting at work and like, I'm thinking to myself like, man, what all am I going to talk about? I'm running through the fights. Like, what is there to say about these fights? And I genuinely thought to myself, you can't even say anything about Jailton because like there's just no reason to have him in discussions. What we know now that he's planning to move down, we have been saying that he's not a true heavyweight for the longest time.
right.
But at this point, with the skill sets that you have, they were not applicable to the blobbiest, least skilled people in the sport. Moving down gives you no advantage at this point. You are going to be just as bad as you were.
That's literally was going to be my point. It's like you are in the division that has the most potential for your exact skill set to be the most effective. You have a skill set that now we're starting to see a little bit more represented, but for a good while, I mean, for at least a good stretch, I would say almost a year's time, you were really one of the only people aside from Curtis Blades that would come up in a discussion of who actually has wrestling and grappling at heavyweight. And you are going to go down to light heavyweight, where, I mean, granted, it's not the strongest division for those things, but I mean, this was tailor made for you here at heavyweight, and you have decided to move out of that to think that there's going to be a greener pasture somewhere else. Do not kid yourself. But the one other thing, maybe a couple other points that I did want to make here. One was that, again, it goes back to the laziness that I had mentioned, because between rounds, there was one time, I believe it was between the second and third, where Gilton's corner was begging him to get into the fight like they didn't know who they were talking to. And I was like, bro, this you saw what you've gotten out of this guy for 2 rounds. This is what you are going to continue to get out of this guy. So whatever there, you knew he was not going to. Again, goes back to the laziness that I described. But the other thing I wanted to say, going back to my point about how you can hear the apex, there was a distinct and audible chant of "break them up" in the apex, and I was like, I appreciate this now. I love the new apex for that reason, because the crowd making it exactly, making their feelings known 100%. And to Dan, this was another big Dan one. To his credit, at least in this one, he did break them up a number of times, as he should have, with the way that this fight was going. Crowd knowing what they wanted to see and was not getting it.
No, absolutely. I think the real question is, and this is the last thing that I have to ask you before we move on, because I'm really ready to get Jailton Almeida up out of here. But the last thing that I would ask you is that did Jailton win this fight 30-27 and or by split decision had he been a foreigner?
um, yeah, no, I don't think so. Foreigner versus foreigner in this one, I don't think you have much of a leg to stand on, as you did not when you made that statement, Gelatin Almeida. So yeah, you see how that can backfire on you yet again, since you fought exactly like you have always fought, and that was the problem to begin with.
Yeah, I wonder if Torres Finney went on Twitter and rooted for him this time.
Yo, hey, real recognizes real, I suppose. But yeah, the other thing I did want to say, because you had brought it up too, and I also have to acknowledge that yes, the Max Holloway point to the ground is officially done, dusted, and over with this fight. They killed it with this fight. So no one ever is allowed to point to the ground ever again. You just can't. You're not going to do it. And thank you very much, Jalton and Rizvan. You have officially killed one of the very cool things that we have recently had in the sport. So congratulations on being murderers, but not in the way that you should have been. We can move on from this fight unless there was anything else you wanted
No,
to.
this one's definitely cursed.
All
Yeah,
right,
they're
yeah,
trying to take us off the air for talking about Jailton Almeida.
that's legit. So, all right, well, let's see. We can move on, and hopefully, the demons will be at bay here. Let's move on to the co-main event of this thing. This was Amir Albazi versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Is Kyoji Horiguchi the most exciting flyweight in the most exciting division right now? Question mark. I'd say there's a strong case to be made that he is becoming that if he is not already.
This one, listen, this one was a very fun fight. This one was kind of one of those one long round fights, unfortunately. The thing that I take away from this is, while I will admit Amir Albazi probably does not have a place at the top of this division because he just doesn't have the skills to stand with him, he does have the toughness to be up here. This dude is a really tough fighter. I mean, Horiguchi was beating the life out of him. I mean, no man really lands 20 strikes and continues to fight the entirety of it without being super tough. I mean, this is just genuinely impressive of a low output performance from this dude. But Horiguchi, really good performance. I do really like I do like his style. Listen, I will tell you, this guy, it's not just that he's fast. He is so fast that Paramount Plus like barely fucking picks up his hands. Like that's it, I was watching it and I was like, am I not at 60 frame? Like, is he moving faster than they can like record? Like, it's pretty crazy because he's a very small fighter, but he uses his style very long and wide, and he's in and out. He does a lot of things well, and he obviously has a lot of different skills and a lot of experience. But the main thing that I want to talk about, and I brought this up on your stream because this has been bothering me for so long, guys. His nickname is the Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi was the Japanese guy. The Karate Kid was American. Please, people understand that he may have not have seen the movie, and we need to get him. We need to get him cultured. I don't know. That's
That's
just
what,
me.
yeah, I think that the nickname might have been applied by someone else to him, and he just went with it, is what I'm suspecting with that. Yeah, maybe he's not aware of that being the fact, but either way, the Karate Kid here, Kyoji-san was. I thought that this was a masterful performance, and to your point, Albazi was a great opponent for Horiguchi to show the level of his game. Amir is tough. He is skilled in his own right, but nowhere near as fast. And the speed really, when you pair the speed with the precision and the power that Horiguchi has, this was just an all-out masterful performance. I said that bro is literally graceful in his
Mhm.
movement. I mean, like it flows, like it really has like this like elegance to it, which I mean, you see it occasionally in mixed martial arts, but like this is a prime example of that at work. That it's like it's such a beautiful fluid motion that he is able to shift his weight in. And it's also like you said, I mean, he uses his size very well with like his skill set, because he like it's pairing his size and his head movement that he's able to use it so well, because he just dips under shots to land his own while still being safe about it, like, and then being able to do the side outs, and like, and he's constantly shifting between his legs to get the weight movements and change directions very quickly. Like, it really is a work of art seeing this guy move at the very least. And I thought, again, kind of the theme of this card, Albazi had the right idea in this fight, because you saw him trying to pin Kyoji against the cage a lot. He was working for takedowns, but Horiguchi just too nice with the negation of the clinch. Horiguchi needs to teach Jailton Almeida something about that, because he was in those clinch situations just right out. He was able to just get himself right out of it and then back to being on his bike.
The one thing that I noticed about Horiguchi, and I think this is definitely, I mean, obviously he's made a name for himself without me having to do the analysis, but he is again, karate style, very bladed stance. He's in and out on the outside. However, he's not a very kick heavy karate kick, style martial artist, whatever you want to say. Like when you look at Wonder Boy, kick heavy. I mean, it
Sure.
leading the kicks. I mean, Horiguchi is doing most of this just off of his hand speed, and I think that's unfortunately when you get listen, I again, he's obviously winning, he's dominating, but for me, I would look at that as like, okay, well, get on the inside, get him up against the cage, get on the inside. I mean, if he's not using his legs, which are his longest weapons, I mean, there's something to say about that. I'm not going to say that I know how to fucking beat it, but like there's something right there that you can pick up. He threw fucking 8 kicks total, like, so whatever you want to say. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, when he did land a kick, it was actually really impressive though, because at the end of round two, Horiguchi lands us like essentially a scorpion kick, like comes up from behind with the kick and behind the head kind of thing, almost the same one that Sosa had landed in her fight. It was one of the few times that she actually had an impactful shot in that entire fight. But Horiguchi actually landed it with like good power on it. And then after that, the kick was impressive to land in its own right. But the thing that was more impressive to me, he lands the kick. Albazi circles himself out to kind of get into, get out of harm's way, get into a safer position. And then Horiguchi tracks him and lands the hook as Albazi is retreating. I was like, he not only hit the scorpion kick, but also hit a moving target with the follow-up shot. I'm like, that bro is just racking up style points over here,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, no, Horiguchi's cool, and I also do agree. Hydra, the nickname is the Gooch. I do kind of agree. Everybody has been going with Gooch, and Gucci Mane is actually another one I've seen, which is a pretty fun one. But
Well, I do have a battle rap bar that I came up with. I'm not saying that this is an original one, but can I recite it for you real quick?
yes, absolutely. Chat, be prepared.
It only takes designer bags to get your girl to blow me. She get hoary for that Gucci like my first name is Kyoji.
It's pretty good. I
Thank
like that
you.
one.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Just came to me.
Well,
Anyway,
I wish KKF Boy was in here right now. He would definitely like that. So
true. Shout out to Sigma. Yeah. So I mean, I guess one of the things that we should also note in this fight, and I don't know how much stock you put into this, but it is something that he had said afterwards. Horiguchi saying that he broke his hand in the first round.
no, yeah, he definitely did. In this post-fight speech, he's already got it casted up. That's why I was making the funny joke in the Discord. It's like, nah, brother, you're headed to fucking Mexico with a broken hand. You already said you're fighting Moreno after this shit. And to be fair, he's got a good attitude about it. He probably would take that fight. But like, that's the exact point I was making. Like, you're literally not gonna fucking make that fight, brother. I don't care if you think it sounds cool, like, oh yeah, I want this fight and I want him. It's like, bro, you just broke your hand in the first fucking minute of this fight, whatever you want to say. Like,
Yeah, no, well, I mean, add all of what I had just said about this being essentially, to me at least, a masterful performance, almost a masterclass of speed, precision, and power with a broken hand. I'm like, I really, I've always been a big fan. I didn't really necessarily follow him as much outside the organization, but I always remembered him from, his first go and fighting Mighty Mouse and all of that. That was when he was a lot younger. He's, got a good amount of years on him now, perhaps, but coming back, I am a really, really big fan of this guy now.
it seems everybody seems to be a pretty big fan of Horiguchi, and I'm not gonna say that, I'm not a fan of him, but I'm gonna be a little hesitant to jump on the bandwagon, guys. I know everybody is quick to jump on a good thing when they see it, but guys, Josh Van is still the champ, and his name ain't Pan, and it ain't Ban, and
Pan,
it is
Ban,
Van.
Van, I want to fight
Yeah.
you.
So
I mean, well, I guess we'll see if he gets that chance. I see Menk in the chat here saying that Horiguchi gets the shot after Manel. I mean, I think that it's a little early for that, I would say, but not too far off. I mean, this is the thing about flyweight. We talk about how exciting it is, but like we have also said that the top of the division is somewhat of a carousel. So like go in there and really make a definitive statement like he has been. I mean, this is not a finish in this fight, but he finished his last fight. So, between that and this fight, come in, get another finish, perhaps. Like it's not out of the equation, I would say.
and to be fair, like I said, shout out to Amir for being so tough. I mean, this very well could have been a finish if it was any other person. Like, it's actually quite interesting to note, like the way that Horiguchi was landing these shots on Amir. Both of the shots that landed on Amir that like kind of made him fucking chicken dance across the cage, they landed like right on the top of his head. Like it wasn't like a temple shot. It wasn't like back of the ear. He'd like just booped him right on the orbital fucking lobe or whatever, and this dude's just body just did not like it. So, and that was both the times that he did it. So it was any other person. We've seen how people react to some shots. Fazeev is somebody who very recently you get punched and your body just turns around and starts walking away. Whatever you want to say, like things happen. Amir is just a very, very tough fighter, and I think Horiguchi, any other person, if it wasn't Amir Albazi, he probably would have finished him with those shots.
Yeah, and to that end, actually, the fight that I think would make sense at some point, I don't know if it is next, but I would say that it would kind of go for me is I'd like to see Albazi against your boy Perez,
Oh,
Alex Perez.
Alex
Yeah,
Perez, yeah, nice. I would definitely love to see him make weight, but yeah, I would love
yeah,
to see it.
yeah. I mean, obviously with the weight make, but yeah, I think that fight makes sense. Alex Perez and Amir Albazi, and then Horiguchi can continue up the rankings now. I mean, Albazi I think was fifth or sixth at like somewhere in that range.
Something like that. Probably shouldn't have been that high, but yeah.
Well, he was still holdover from before. He had been ranked and then he had to be out for a long time, and then Moreno dropped him down farther, and then that's why I think he's somewhere in that range. But either way, I mean, Horiguchi just rising the ranks very quickly now, so good on him.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, that brings us to the main event of the evening: Mario Bautista versus Vinicius Oliveira. Of course, we talked on the free for all chase about Vinicius Oliveira cutting 30 pounds in 1 week's time to make this fight happen. And perhaps that was not such a great idea. What do you think?
I'm glad that we got to have the moment on Friday because on Monday, I stuck with my decision on Vinicius Oliveira, and then on Friday, I'm glad we got to rehash it a little bit because I'm very confident that I knew how this was going to play out. Once this dude was he in that interview talking about how he had he lost all this weight and he still got such and such to go. I'm looking at him right there thinking you're gonna die on the scale. You're gonna die, and he made the weight. Shout out to him, but this is exactly what you get when you drain all that fucking weight. Even Mario Batista said, I don't look at it as you're bigger than me with all the weight loss. Like you're just slower now. Like and that's a good way to look at it. It doesn't obviously happen like that for everybody, but in this case, it definitely worked out for him. Vinicius Oliveira came in probably one of the worst game plans I've ever seen in my life. I mean, because one, it's not like he did anything wrong, but the fact that you did something that expelled every single drop of your energy in the first round, you clearly fucked up. Like you clearly, I mean, whether it was the weight cut, whether camp before that, whether you didn't do this or that. Obviously, he said he had a broken arm and he couldn't be trained. There's always excuses, but the fact of the matter is, the first round ended. He walked over to his corner, sat down, and did.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm like,
I'll touch on that. Yeah, I mean, really, starting this thing off from my side of the aisle here. I mean, Oliveira gassed himself. He really gassed himself out halfway through round one of a 5-round fight. I mean, dude, this is. I mean, like I could only imagine what this thing would have looked like had it gone into later rounds for whatever reason. But obviously that was not going to ever be the case. But so round one, yeah, that was a lot of positional jockeying, some actual active clinching, which I was like, nice to see that after some of the stuff we saw earlier on the card, but I digress. Then yes, that what you said, I mean, this was like, it was really almost bizarre because Bautista starts to get his rhythm. And what you're thinking about, we're all thinking about this from Vinicius' side of the equation, but Mario Bautista is a very skilled fighter in his own right, and B, a guy who is very well conditioned. He has never missed weight. I went and checked. So it's like, he's always in the ready state. Like, I think that that's actually one of his biggest, or not biggest credits, but a credit that you can definitely apply to him is that he is very professional about his fight, how he takes his fighting, how he conducts himself when it comes to this sport. So the conditioning was never going to be an issue for him. So he starts to feel himself in that first round, starts getting some stuff going for him. Still competitive, but he was just it's a 5-round fight. He's just getting himself started. Oliveira literally butt scooted to his corner at the end of the round. He was on the ground on his and then just scooted himself over. He's sitting on the floor. They bring the stool over, and then he has to claw his way to get onto the stool. I was like, this is not going to go well in the second round. I mean, it was obviously, and of course we know now, but like just watching it back, I was like, you could see this from a mile away. And the fact that he was, like you said, pointing his mouth, as he needs water, he's breathing so heavy. I mean, like this was just the gassing was inevitable beyond how this fight ended. Like there was never going to be a path to victory here.
yeah. And then the second round was just even more beautiful. I mean, such a great performance from Mario. Gets the takedown, and then that's about all she wrote right there. Vinicius gets up and he tries to get up, and then Mario just grabs his neck and pulls him right back to the ground. And I even, I foreshadowed this a little earlier. I saw a Chinese woman named Wang Tong fight harder to get out of a submission than the Brazilian who had probably been taught this position in primary school. And the fact of the matter is, it's not that he didn't even attempt. He just, I'm done. I'm done. Just get me out of here. I'm done. And again, weight cut issues, you were tired, you were exhausted, you had a broken arm, whatever you want to say. Mate, this is why you don't go talking all the hot shit on Twitter. I'm not the one that say, listen, I was a big fan. I'm not going to be the one that says I didn't enjoy you talking shit on Twitter, but like you going back and forth with Chael Sonnen on Twitter about how you're beating up on your fucking training partners or whatever, and that's not cool. Well, when you write everybody off saying they don't know what they're talking about, and then you get whooped in 2 rounds and choked out, tapping for your life. I mean, dude, like, come on. I hopefully, and Vinicius unfortunately doesn't seem like this type of person. Hopefully, there's some sense of humbleness coming, but I'm I'm reading this as there's no humbleness coming after this.
Well,
This
now
is
you know why.
similar to like a John Silva situation, I would
Eh,
say.
yeah, and now you say now you know why I've never really liked this guy. I've always thought that there's been a lot, going on with him. He's got a cockiness streak that I don't think he lives up to necessarily 100%. And then this happens and goes out the window. But yeah, I had it in the notes. Not even the thing about Chael Sonnen specifically, but more of the clip that we went over on the free for all, where it was him during the pre-fight, where he was saying, I've got this plan of getting the belt quickly so that I can move up. I'm like, this delusional fuck really thought he was going to be able to fight his way this way to the belt at bantamweight with these type of weight cuts on top of it. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with all of this dumb shit. And I mean, you're seeing it. I mean, like I've never like I wanted to say like that we saw him change weight classes mid fight. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, oh, if he thought that he was going to be moving up to moving up at a later time, it's like, no, you're moving up tomorrow, brother. The increase starts now.
I absolutely love it. A classic story that I love in mixed martial arts and the UFC specifically is you have somebody who's decent and then they have weight issues and then they have to move up a class and then they are not very good anymore. Like the one thing they had going for them is that they could cut weight a lot and actually have that extra pound on them. It's not going to happen anymore. You're going to be 145 now, Vinicius Oliveira. And I hate to break it to you, I was already skeptical about how far you were going to make it in bantamweight. I Diego Lopez is doing dirty things to you. Is all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely. Yeah, most definitely on all of those things. And really, I also wanted to, like I said, give a little bit of additional praise to Bautista in this fight. Aside from the fact that this was a little bit of a layup based on the other side, I mean, this was round two with that beautifully timed double leg that you mentioned there. The takedown was really nice. I mean, the fact that he was able to secure the position that he was getting himself to, even if his opponent was looking for a way out anyway, which is definitely what that was. I mean, that there was no resistance to the tap in the slightest. I just thought that this was a very well executed plan for Bautista. Strong showing doesn't necessarily change a whole lot for him, I would say, because of him sort of fighting down for this to begin with. But I still like it. I'm a low key fan of Bautista, like I've said, so I'm happy for him with all of this. And on the other side, Vinicius Oliveira really shot himself in the foot with this because this happens on the prelims. When you're a newer fighter, all right, you need to figure yourself out. You were the headliner of this card. Your name is on the marquee. I scroll up on ESPN right now. Your name is right there. Uh, this was your shot, dude. This was where you were supposed to be making the name for yourself, and now this is what you have made for yourself. So
Yeah, so how do we think this bodes well with the organization? I mean, obviously he didn't pull out of a main event. Obviously he didn't, do other things that people have done, but I said this is gonna be in my opinion, before this fight even happened, I said I was feeling the vibes of, your Fluffy and your Mikel Pereira or your fucking RDR and your Brendan Allen, where you have somebody with just such high value that is just one round of a beast, and then after that, it's like, what the fuck are they even actually doing? So, I don't know. What do you think? Is Vinicius gonna ever get his opportunity again?
oh, I mean, he will get it if he earns it at
Mhm.
featherweight. I
Yeah,
mean, like if because he's yeah. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, it's not going to take any convincing on his part. He's going to move up, but the organization is also going to want him to move up. But I think they're going to slot him in very mid level. Like he's going to have like two fights before he gets anywhere near a ranking, I would say.
hear me out. What if he even goes to lightweight?
Then everything that has made him even slightly interesting goes right out the window. Because I've always said, as far as why I thought that Bautista was going to win this even before we knew about the weight cut, was because he's a crafty guy. But if you get your hands on him, it takes away all of what makes him able to be that crafty and that wily and slimy and all that kind of stuff. Like he's a slippery dude who has unique movement. So it's like, that ends up working for him a lot. He's able to get himself out of sticky situations in a way that other guys might not be able to. You get at a higher weight where he's not as agile. Like, Kyoto Horiguchi is able to be that fast because he is that small at that
Yeah.
weight. Like, you start adding another 20 pounds to this guy, I mean, like, or the 30 that he walks around with at all times that he had to cut. I think that he becomes a fundamentally different fighter. I would suspect anyway. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think the last question that I have, did the blonde goatee that Vinicius Oliveira had, did that help him in any way, or did he gain any browning points because of that?
On the contrary, it was one of the greatest aura losses I've ever seen in my life. That is such a bad look, and I didn't even know it was so bad, or like kind of didn't catch my eye initially. But it's one of those things that you cannot unsee. Not unlike Donchenko when he had the single plait coming down in the front, which was bothering the hell out of me during his fight. I didn't mention
Yeah, it
it, but
was.
yes, but yeah, but I mean, you tell me. Do you have another opinion about that as a man with a goatee?
It's funny, but no, I didn't notice it at first either because like you're looking at it and you're like, does he just have something on his face? Like, what is that? But then you realize you're like, oh, that's just like a weird choice. But funny you bring up Don Checo. That actually did come up in our call as well. I can tell you as a person with long hair, one singular strand just it would ruin everything. You wouldn't even be able to fucking no. It's just flying, just touching your face. Just no, it's horrible. It's one of the
Yeah,
worst experiences ever.
yeah, Scott Hall, it was not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was one of those things that was like, again, I think Hydra was in the chat when I was talking about that, and he was like, now I see it. It's like you can't unsee it when you see it, much like that terrible patch of blonde on Vinicius's chin.
Hell yeah. So I'm hoping he got rid of that one first thing in the morning and then obviously had himself a very big glass of water because he's going to be needing to drink some water for a really long time, brother.
Yeah, a lot of water, big hearty breakfast, get himself right with his weight and his everything. Really, he just needs to reassess everything at this point. I get, dude, we see this not only from him, right? Of course, we're talking about him, he was in the fight, but like I just think about any of these guys that are doing these dramatic weight cuts in general. Like Patty Pimblett comes to mind immediately with this, where it's like, how long do they think? Like, it's not even a matter of like what we think about it, but like how long in their own minds and in their own bodies do they think that they can pull that off? Because you are doing exponential damage to the way that your cells reconstruct. Like there's a physiology of what that, like the weight cut, the yo-yoing of the weight does to your body is really damaging. And like they just don't seem to care. Like I saw that video. I don't know if you saw that video. Of it was going around. It was a pre-fight of Patty before the Justin fight, and so he's backstage waiting to fight, and he's down, and he had like a turkey sandwich. He's downing like Sour Patch Kids and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, dude, you are setting yourself up for such bad health problems later on in life.
Well, the fact is, you want to talk about how dangerous it is. I mean, if anybody knows how dangerous it is, it's Vinicius. He even said in the interview, like, I know cutting all this weight is not good for me, so that's why I'm planning to do it really, really fast and then go move up. So
All
it's
right.
not that they don't know, it's that they're maybe not the brightest, unfortunately. Like their idea of saving themselves of lifelong damage just do it as quick as possible. If I do it in 2 years instead of 5 years, then I have 30 more to live. It's like, well, sure, I guess if the maths to you, but I
Yeah. Nah. I mean, it's not necessarily like that's going to be the thing that's going to be like, putting them on their deathbed or anything. I'm just
right.
saying it's like, it's definitely not helping matters later on. But either way, you are right. You're right about Vinicius. At least he acknowledges it. So look, best of luck to him and getting himself right. And hopefully he comes back at the higher weight and has better success. But right here, this was a really a big shot in the foot, I thought.
The only thing that I can say to these people that miss weight, even the first time you miss weight, if you come in here, okay, maybe not the first. I mean, accidents happen, people get sick, whatever the case may be. But if you are somebody who it has a narrative around you that you struggle to make weight or that you cannot make the weight or that you're doing this and that, This is what the PI exists for. They have science facilities and medical staff down there to help you perfect what you are trying to accomplish. And it's that easy. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You just fucking walk in the door. They give you everything because you're part of the organization. I'm pretty sure you get all the meals and stuff there. It's like, I don't know.
I
It's
was just
crazy.
gonna say, not you don't even have to go there anymore, bro. You can get the meal delivery service delivered right to your doorstep.
Facts. Big facts. So, I mean, at this point, there's no excuses, Vinicius Oliveira.
Yeah, indeed. But that all being said, that was UFC Fight Night Bautista versus Oliveira. After talking it through, Chase, what are your final thoughts on this thing?
This was a fun card. I really like it. Liked being back in the meta Apex, of course, and I'm really glad going forward. I know people still have in their mind this idea that we don't need the Apex, that we could be in every city around the world for however many days of the week that there are. But the Apex has its place. There are definitely fights that need to happen in the Apex because there are people that we're just unsure of. There's people that you can't put stock in to go raise the roof in a house full of 20,000 people. You just could not put Ketlin Souza. If there was no Apex, Caitlin Souza would never fight. I mean, I hate to break it to you guys. She just would not ever get to be seen.
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely. I mean, it cuts both ways on that because you're right. Like that, there is the fighter who's just going to be a middling fighter forever. But then this came up on the watch along during this event, and actually, I thought it was a really nice framework for my biggest point about the Apex and why fight nights are important in general. Somebody was in the chat had said they went back to the very first live stream that I had ever done on the Yama channel. It was one with me and Vitz were watching an Apex card, and they said, man, this card was stacked. Like they went back and like looked through like the bouts and stuff that was on it. It was like John Silva. I think it might have been Ankalaev versus Walker, might have been that card. Maybe that's a little bit later, but it was whatever. The point is that like if you go through it, it's a who's who of fighters that you know now that have made names for themselves in the sport now. So my point with all of this is that these cards always have value, whether it's seeing people leave that you don't need to remember anymore or seeing the next wave of future stars. The narrative is written in these cards. So for that reason, I definitely thought it was, a fine one. And like we said at the start of this thing, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is why the sport is always entertaining, even if it's frustrating, even if it's hilarious. You get a little smattering of everything. This was a fine card. I enjoyed it.
yeah, 100%. And then shout out to Hydra with his last comment here. $7.7 billion deal. We could do fight nights in cities with local fighters, make Apex a lower tier than fight nights so we have no break weeks. I mean, yeah, I mean anything's possible. Honestly, I am a big fan of having more events. An event every week for 52 weeks or whatever the case may be. I would not be opposed to it, but at a certain point, I always question a lot of the talent that we see, and if these people are definitely deserving of being on these cards. I don't know if I could stand an entire card full of the people like Ketlin Souza. And I actually did want to correct myself. She has been on a pay-per-view. She was at the Sphere. If anybody remembers that, you let me know.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm okay with there being a week off every now and again. Other promotions can take those Saturdays every once in a while too. It would have been actually really nice if Knucklemania had just waited an extra week and then they could have been on this Saturday and then we could have just been watching it live. But no, I think that I think I am okay with the output that we get from the organization personally right
Mhm.
now. Like I'm not, I don't think that I need too much more, especially when we're going to be coming back with the Contender Series soon, and that always is one of the greatest parts of the year, one of my favorite parts of the year. So I think that we should just be grateful for what we have with as far as output goes. I think we get a good amount. So I wouldn't be opposed to it if they said, hey, we're going to do every single weekend, then we would do every single weekend. But for right now, I'm not complaining about that.
100%. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So, all right. Well, then that is that. And of course, as you know, we do not have fights this coming weekend, but we can still do a little bit of a rundown of what we will be talking about on next week. Of course, the upcoming card that we will be talking about, which is going to be the 21st of February. So, again, not this weekend, but the weekend after, is UFC Fight Night Strickland versus Hernandez. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this card. I have said many times, I think in our state of the divisions, I was saying how Hernandez is one of my favorite fighters right now and a person who I put a lot of stock into. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, is someone who I am not very fond of. What are I mean, you have any initial thoughts on this? Just very basic.
I think this will be a very good one. I know everybody is skeptical to say Sean Strickland loves to go to war, but I think this one will be definitely a more of a fight than the last few that Fluffy has had. I'll say that.
True. All right. Well, then let's just briefly run down the rest of it, and we can close this thing out. After that, your co-main event, Dan Ige versus Melchizedek Costa. I know you're excited about that one for sure.
Yeah.
All right. After that is Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delia. Interesting that they're continuing to give that guy shots. I appreciate that. Going forward, it's Jacoby Smith versus Suk Young Ko.
Mm.
Then Zachary Reese versus Michelle Pajeda.
First round finish. Jesus Christ.
Well, if he has the cardio to actually make it into the cage and doesn't dance.
Yes.
But all right. So that's I mean, wow, that's all the main card. Jeez, yeah, I guess they maybe abbreviated this a little bit, or maybe they're still adding fights to it. But you're going down into the prelims, Chidi and Jukwani versus Carlos Leal.
That's a pretty good one. Also, first round finish.
Could be. Ode Osborne versus Alibi Idris, our guy from The Ultimate Fighter, coming back for another go. That's a big test for him and Ode Osborne. Actually, I like that fight.
Well, as long as what's his name, Alibi. As long as Alibi doesn't put himself into submissions again, like he did with Joseph Morales, he should definitely fucking win. But it is what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next after that is Alden Correa. I know the name. Is he a Contender Series guy?
He fought. He stepped up on short notice, I believe. Yes, he's from Fury Fighting Championship. He stepped up against Alejandro Costa at the Sphere or something like that. Noche Lopez Silva, excuse me.
Oh, okay. Oh, on the Lopez Silva card, yes. Oh, yes, Correa. Yeah, he's a training partner of somebody. Now I do remember him. Yeah, he had a good performance on that card. Actually,
he got a knockout.
Yeah, he got a knockout. Yeah, he finished his fight. Good deal. Cool. Okay, great. And he's fighting Luis Garule, who has not been it, unfortunately. Like, I liked Luis Garule. I remember him from the Contender Series. He's a wrestle heavy guy. He needs a win real bad. He's going to get cut if he does not win this fight. That no two ways about that. So make or break fight for Garule on that one.
100%.
Next up after that, this is I like this fight actually. Nora Cornell versus Jocelyn Edwards. Of course, Edwards, someone who I have been very anti for a long time, but actually finished a fight recently. So I kind of have to shut up on that one. She's changed my perception versus Nora Cornell, who still needs to change perceptions, I think.
Yeah, I would love Jocelyn on this one. And these last three, I'm really excited to just briefly get a glimpse of real quick.
Oh, gosh, yes. Austin Vanderford versus Jean-Paul Lesbosnayani. I remember that guy from the Contender Series finally making his debut over here. He was the guy who had the faces in the crowd.
Yes, yep.
Hell
I
yeah.
would say they fabricated his hype, but that's just me.
True. Well, let's see if he lives up to it. Then, and of course, going off against Austin Vanderford, or AKA Mr. Paige Van Zandt. So that's interesting. Jordan Levitt versus Yadier Del Valle. So glad that Del Valle is coming back and getting, a good shot here against a good opponent, I would say, for him.
I was going to say Yadier. I mean, he must have been cleared in the investigation. That's all that I'm saying here, because like I said, even back to just because it wasn't him who was the one under investigation. I mean, he still partook in the competition. So there's definitely had to be some questions asked to him, I would say. And if there wasn't, then Cash Patel, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Cash Patel sits with his Sherlock Holmes hat and his big magnifying glass, just looking at files day after day, brother. Yeah. He's got so much to do. That guy
so many files.
So many files, bro. I mean, so much to do, so little time, and so many investigations. So yes, I got to believe that the Justice Department did their due diligence and that Yadier Del Valle has been cleared. So welcome back, Cuban Problem. Wasn't he the Cuban Problem as opposed to the Cuban Missile Crisis? I think that is his nickname.
I think you're right.
All right. And then rounding this thing out is Juliana Miller, Killer Miller, going up against Crispy Carly Judice. I know you're a big fan.
I'm a big fan of this fight in general because I think this is another one where the UFC knows what they're doing, and I feel like they listened to me on this one. I'm not trying to go too far in depth of it. I'll just give you a brief analysis. Juliana Miller looks in the face as if Dakota Decheva was American, right? Hear me out. Carly Judice is as good as Dacheva, except she actually competes in the UFC and she's not a fucking weenie. So I would like you to know that this is American Dacheva versus the real Dacheva matchup right here. So just be ready
I
for it. And
You
it's the
heard it here.
first fight of the night, women's fights. Like, you guys hear me out. It's going to be a banger. I mean, Carly
That
Judy doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, that I was gonna say that is one of your most true to reality takes that you've ever had on the show. I would say is that you are absolutely correct about the organization knowing how to start cards off with women's fights. Like, they have been really on the money, like time over time in some of these cards. We've been seeing some really banger women's fights to start cards off, and Judice fits the bill of somebody who can make that happen. So I'm looking for some big fireworks out of her on this one.
Yeah, yeah. Juliana Miller's tough, but I'm gonna take Carly Judy's by a body shot TKO. That's a
I
long
like it.
shot right there.
No, I like it though. I think that is I think that has actual legit potential. So we'll, tip the hand on that one perhaps, but of course we're going to talk about all of these fights. But before we end the stream, Chase, I forgot to do it earlier, but where are we with our standings? How did we both fare when it came to Bautista versus Oliveira? I know I took a bath early on the card, but I think I did pretty well on the main card.
Yes. So your total points for this weekend, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So you got
Wow.
8 correct. And then I came in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 correct.
Wow.
So the totals, this leaves me still ahead by 6 points. It is 26-20 on the year.
Oh, I mean, I gotta get my galaxy brain takes on here somewhere, brother. You're starting to walk away with this, but I'm actually pretty happy with the way that turned out in the big picture then, because I thought I was taking some really, really terrible takes early on, and that actually became a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. So, good deal.
Yeah, that was definitely a good one. Yeah, I liked it.
Well, in the meantime, I bow down to your superiority in predictions, Chase, Galaxy Brain Chase, as always. And of course, we are going to come back to you guys out there next week to go over each and every fight from the upcoming card. That, of course, being Strickland versus Hernandez. We will give you all of our predictions. We will lock them in, and we will make sure that they stay locked in until we come back the week thereafter to talk about them again. So, in the meantime, I'm going to be live tomorrow, as I said. I'll let you know start times on Twitter and Instagram, but youtube.com/@Yama Show. Hang out with your boy for a rewatch of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, Knuckle Mania. We're going to be doing that tomorrow evening. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you for all of your amazing content.
Absolutely. They'll find me on youtube.com/@CPSmalls, and that's normally on Friday mornings when one is on, and of course Saturdays when the UFC is on. And if you guys didn't know, Glory is now our new favorite promotion. It's on Pluto TV, and we may have to do a rewatch sometime soon of Alex Pereira. So
I think that if you end up doing that, brother, I will be in the chat. I think that would be a great time. I love hanging out in your chat as well. So, yeah, definitely hang out with Chase for that. If I'm there, you might be seeing me as well. Hang out with me for Bare Knuckle and whatever else. I'm trying to get some other content out this week, and I think I should have the time for it. So, keep your eyes on the channel. Always something new coming out. Of course, I am at Yama Show on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook. Make sure you follow your boy there as well. And until next time, everybody, we will see you in the next one. So have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. Thank you very much to the chat, as always, for hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys. You make it all happen. And as always, fight on.